What is up, people? Hello to the chat. How we doing? It's been a couple of days since the last one of these. The last one was so amazing. The last few of these have just been so amazing. I'm still blown away by what we're doing. I want to begin by just thanking everybody in the chat who's been supporting these callers as they call in. And I'm excited to dive in today and speak with more of you and hear your stories. This is a place, for those who may be new here, this is a place where people can just kind of come together and share anything that they're going through, something that's confusing them, that they need help processing, a place where people can get something off their chest, or just share something difficult that they're going through. And the chat and I have been working in tandem to just listen and support callers. We've had some extreme stories. One of the first nights we did this, we had somebody who had recently learned they were they were conceived in a crack deal, and they called and just had this amazing story. This person was a total champion, total hero, and these stories we're getting are just so inspiring. These people that are calling in are just A+ human beings, and you guys are A+ human beings for the support you've been giving these people. This is a safe place where we don't care about politics or ideas or we don't care about anything that currently is dividing people, basically. And we just listen. We take callers. We got a 1-800 number internationally, toll free. Anyone can call in anywhere in the world and just share something. And we've had people from all over calling in with just unbelievable stories, and it's been cathartic for me. It's been cathartic for people in the chat, apparently. And we're keeping this train going. This is a very new thing for me. There's some funny moments. I know a lot of you guys know me for comedy. Comedy is still a big part of who I am, and it's a big part of my life. It'll probably always be a big part of my job, but this is a different place. This is a place, even though it's on my channel here on YouTube, where there's a lot of comedic stuff, this is a different place. These live streams are a place where we can all just feel a little bit human together, and we don't need to get into the weeds on who thinks what or who believes what. We've had people from all different kinds of walks of life calling in and sharing, and in my opinion, that's how relationships ought to be. We shouldn't care so much about what people believe, and it gets messy sometimes, but this is not the place, of course, where we're going to be talking about things like that. We're here to talk about difficult experiences. Again, this is a place for people to just feel human, and that's it. That's it. So, again, just a huge thanks to the chat for all the support you guys have been giving to these listeners. This has been so much... it's been so meaningful, but it's also been a lot of fun. Just hanging out with you guys and seeing what this turns into, and also just hearing these stories. And it's been beautiful. It's been amazing. So, for those who may be watching for the first time, this is a place where we take anonymous callers. You can call and share anything. It's completely anonymous. We don't take any personal information. We're not keeping track of phone numbers. We're not logging. We don't take names. In fact, unless a caller adheres to very specific criteria, they get toasted, which means I hang up on them. It's basically the only funny part of the show, where people get toasted. But the last couple episodes, there hasn't been a lot of toast. I think there was one toast last time, and 2 toasts the time before that. So people are kind of picking up on what we're putting down here. And if you know anyone who's going through something that has an unbelievable story, or just something that they might want to get off their chest anonymously, please encourage them to call in. This is, of course, the chat and I are all ears for people who are going through, I don't want to call them normal problems, but more common problems. We've had a lot of callers calling in with various addictions to porn, addictions to alcohol, addictions to all kinds of things. And some of them are extreme cases, and some of them are not extreme cases. And we want to hear everybody, because this is a place where we just kind of, we're just real with each other. There's no frills here. This is very loose, as you're about to see. There's no frills here. This is just a place where you can come and feel human. So, if you know anyone with a amazing story or something that they're going through that may be cathartic for them to just share anonymously, encourage them to call in tonight. So, with that, we are going to open up, man, based on the chat tonight, I'm just looking at the chat. I'm just going to guess there's going to be a lot of toast tonight. I could be wrong, but I'm just looking at this chat here. There's a lot of weird-ass comments in the chat tonight. I'm guessing there's going to be some toast. So, if you see me hang up on people, I'm not being a jerk. We're just trying to very quickly get to people with real things that they need to talk about. So that's enough. That's enough of a preamble. That's enough of the exposition. We're going to go ahead and get these phone lines primed. And we're going to throw a number up here on the screen, which, again, anyone can call anywhere in the world, toll-free. It's toll-free to over 100 countries. It's the best toll-free package we could find for this kind of application. So, pretty much anywhere you can call in. And prepping these phone lines here. We will be diving in momentarily. And here we go. We're going to take our first caller. Hi, thanks for calling.
Oh, hi. How are you?
I'm well. How are you tonight?
I am okay, hoping to get better soon.
What do you want to talk about?
Allow me to preface this by saying my pronouns are he, him. I know my voice is pretty high-pitched, but just a content warning for anyone. Like, I know some already very heavy stuff has been dealt with, but still, just in case, I've been dealing with a lot of, like, suicidal ideation and PTSD and trauma and stuff.
Wow. Well, I'm glad you called in and you're sharing. I know there's a lot of people going through this kind of thing right now. I'm so sorry to hear you're in that place. It takes a lot of bravery to tell someone you're thinking about things like that.
Thank you. Honestly, the anonymity of it it's weird because, like, so many, like, anyone in the world can see it, but
right.
It's also very, like, private and reassuring.
Right. We're not collecting any information. We don't want to know anything about you. In fact, if you tell me your name or where you're from, I'm going to have to toast you. So don't tell me any of that stuff. But we want to hear your story. I want to hear, sounds like you're going through a lot. How long have the suicidal thoughts been plaguing you?
At least since I was 10. My memory is shaky at best. Like, a lot of my past is either blurry or completely blacked out. But I do have a memory of when I was 10. Funny enough, my dog actually ate my homework, and it was a big project. And I wasn't mad at her, of course, but I was freaking out because, you know, this is a significant part of my grade. And I was just so panicky, and I wasn't doing well at school, and I remember just like snapping and saying to my mom at the time, like, then I'm just going to kill myself. And she yelled at me, and later when my dad came home after work, he hit me for saying that. And it was true, like how I felt. And they asked where I had learned something like that. And I lied and I said the radio because I didn't want them to know that I had been thinking that before.
I see.
Yeah.
Does this homework you mentioned play into this at all, or was that like uh, an aside that led into the conversation with your mom? I'm trying to figure out what is the cause of these suicidal thoughts.
So the homework was kind of just like the straw that broke the camel's back.
Okay.
Um, I was bullied severely,
I'm sorry to hear that.
both by students and actually by like teachers and family members as well. So
Thank goodness.
I really didn't have an escape, and because adults were also part of the problem, I internalized this and I felt that it must have been my fault because, you know, when you start hearing things all over the place, it becomes an echo chamber of negativity, and especially when you're so young. And like, you know, I didn't have like a phone or anything. Um, but like I was just only essentially hearing that like I was a terrible person and like ugly, and some of it weirdly enough got racist. And I say it's weird because we're the demographic of people who I went to school with, like I'm mostly the same race as all of them.
Okay.
So yeah, I was told I was like ugly and stupid and all that fun stuff.
I'm really sorry to hear that. How old are you?
I'm currently 20, turning 21 soonish.
Okay. You sound very intelligent. You're very well spoken. Um,
Thank you.
you are clearly not stupid. Um,
I appreciate it.
I can tell you that a lot of kids, including teenagers, are just nasty.
Hmm.
It took me a long time to realize that. I was also bullied a lot in school. I was homeschooled most of my life, but for a few years where I was in public schools, I was bullied for a number of reasons. First of all, I have this beautiful gap tooth thing going on, this aesthetic of gap teeth. You know, I got made fun of for that all the time.
Me too.
Yeah, you know, kids will bully kids for any number of reasons. Kids love homogeny. They love
Hmm.
if you're not a cookie cutter, they make fun of you because they don't know what else to do. And I hope that
Yeah.
you understand that at least. I'm trying to encourage you because you mentioned you're in a dark place. That, yeah,
Right.
but it also sounds like there's a lot of adults who were not respecting you. Uh,
Yeah.
when did the suicidal thoughts begin? I know you mentioned you were really young.
Yeah, I'd say they began around 9 or 10. It might have been sooner. Um, Honestly, like most of my memories of my childhood was when I was in a dissociative state because I was in such like high stress environment.
Okay.
But I didn't realize that that wasn't normal as a kid. I thought that was just something that everyone did.
Right.
But you know, because it was dissociated, I don't entirely remember, but definitely I was around those ages, and it hasn't ever really stopped.
Have you ever attempted?
Yeah, when I was between the ages of 12 to 14, um, I drank bleach, swallowed a bunch of pills. Obviously
Goodness.
did not work. I'm still here. But I
I'm glad it didn't
also,
work.
um, pardon?
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm just saying that I'm glad it didn't
Oh,
work.
you're all good. Oh, well, thank you. When I'm in better headspaces, I would agree. And for like the safety of like any listeners or viewers right now, I'm not going to go into details about why that didn't work. Um, but it didn't. And
Did you mention you were trans, or am I making that up? Is that does that play into
it,
this? Are you misunderstood in your community, in your home community, for some reason, or what's the issue? Why do you feel so rejected? I know you mentioned they're bullying you for not being intelligent and things like this, but
yeah,
was it? I
yeah.
also feel like you touched on a trans thing. Maybe I'm wrong. Can you help me understand that?
I didn't say it explicitly, but I am trans. Yes, I
Okay,
am female to male,
I see.
and I come from a very Catholic community.
Okay,
I went to Catholic school from kindergarten to my senior year of high school, and it was really painful because like I knew like as soon as I heard like I understood what like like bisexuality was. I knew that I was bisexual, but that was around the same age where like you know teachers and like just like people in our community were telling us that we were going to go to hell, um
right.
like for being queer. And when I learned I was trans, it was especially hard because at that time I was actually going to an all girls school, and like it, it was just such like a strong disconnect, especially because it's not it's ultimately not a choice. It's my choice to act on it, yes, but it is not my choice to be the way I am. And acting on choosing to wear pants um is not a sin. Hot take. So
Right.
yeah.
Well, what do you need? What would make this a beneficial call for you? Are you looking for some feedback? Are you looking for just some emotional support? What would make this a productive call?
I'm honestly looking for anything. For context, the reason why I'm calling in today is because the other day on Friday, I was highly considering to commit suicide again. I have like, a lot going on. My dad almost died in the Ukraine. He's fine, he's alive, but he almost died, and like, you know, I currently go to school in an area where being openly queer is not only not accepted but dangerous.
Hmm.
Um, and I I was just so vastly overwhelmed. Like I have a service dog, and he was doing a fantastic job, and that's what ultimately got me to like be grounded and call my therapist. I was almost put in the hospital, but um, I wasn't as much of a danger to myself at that point. And actually, I may have been trying to convince the mental health professional who came down to like not put me in a hospital because at, what I would need from a hospital would take longer than 72 hours. And unfortunately, I don't have longer than 72 hours due to school. Like I can't afford to miss that amount of time. So I guess what I'm looking for is, I guess, insight into managing these incredibly high stress levels, especially as, I have like a lot of like flashbacks to certain events from my childhood and um, some pretty recent, you know, traumas as well. Like I also, content warning, was sexually assaulted pretty recently. I was raped
Oh my God.
by, yeah, it sucked. It was, this is gonna sound like some, like, crazy shit, but he was, a college wrestler. So he's like a big fucking guy, and he choked me until I started seeing black and like started to feel like, like prickly in my like face and hands and like slowly the rest of my body. And so like I and there's like a lot of other stuff that, we don't really have time to get into. But like there's just a lot on my plate, and I'm having trouble focusing and staying calm, like at day to day. Like I can't focus on school because I'm so focused on trying not to think about my trauma by, distracting myself.
Right.
But anytime I like, it seems like I start to calm down, my brain starts to think about those times again. So I'm wondering like how I could possibly, you know, like switch my attention to school.
I'm sensing some, I want to be careful, but I'm sensing some self-doubt or um, valuation issues in your voice. Am I off base there? Do you believe what these people say about you? These bullies and these people? I mean, you've been through so many things. I've never been there, but I have to imagine that if I had endured those kinds of things, maybe I would be dealing with some kind of sense of self-doubt or lack of self-worth or something like that. You think that could be the root of what you're feeling?
Yeah, very much so.
I'm really sorry to hear that. I'm People can be ugly. People can be really nasty. Even adults. I know I said kids earlier. Kids definitely
Yeah.
probably get the trophy for that contest of nastiness. But, there's a lot of nasty adults, too. There's a lot of people that don't know their ass from a hole in the ground. Pardon my expression there. But it's not only vulgar, it's kind of gross. But, it's true. Like, there's a lot of adults that just don't know. They don't know. They should know a lot more about how to treat people we're in a civilization, we're not in the wild, we're not in the woods. I think we live in this world where a lot of people think they can just do whatever they want. They can treat people however they feel like they should because it's a free country if you live in America. But it's just not true. Like, our societies run on agreements, and these agreements are things like being civil to each other and being respectful. And there's a lot of nasty people out there, and I'm just so sorry that you've endured so. Your story's crazy. You've been through so many things. It sounds like you know that, but it also sounds like you're struggling with some self-doubt and some, value. You're struggling to find your own value, find your edge in life, and um, I can tell.
Yeah.
I want to ask you this question right out of the gate. It's the question I ask a lot of people in extreme scenarios, but it's a good question, and so I continue asking it. Do you have a counselor? Do you have someone that's helping you through this regularly? Do you have someone you're opening up to regularly about this kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Good. Have they been helpful? Do you feel connection with that person?
Yeah, luckily this is actually the first therapist I've had that's been helpful.
Do they know you're suicidal, that you attempted on Friday, or you had thoughts on Friday?
Yeah, he was the one that called like the social worker
Okay,
to my place to evaluate me.
I see. I'm glad you had that person in your corner. And I'm so glad you called in tonight and are sharing. I hope this is helpful for people to hear. Um, I believe there's a lot of people in similar situations. I'm not diminishing your experience, but I believe there's a lot of people out there
Yeah.
feeling misunderstood. This is a really, really crazy time. We got the clash of the generations going on right now. And if you're trans, I mean,
Hmm.
I don't know where you live, but, depending on where you live, that could be a huge stressor for you, being that way,
It,
Um,
yeah.
and, you know, uh, do you have people around you that,
Yeah. Well,
that do see your value, that do tell you what you're worth? Do you have people that support you, like friends or family, anyone that is, like, beyond close with you, like intimate with you? I'm wondering, like, how do your parents feel about this stuff? Do you have any close friends that can see you and understand you and believe you? Do you have anyone like that outside of your therapist?
luckily I do. I've got some amazing friends who, have been, nothing but chill and respectful when it comes to like, my identity as a trans person. My parents, it took them a long time to accept that. Actually, when I came out, um, my dad straight up said it was disgusting. And like he like scoffed and like he shook his head and in an almost cartoonish display of revulsion. And so I left my house and I went to my friend's house um to like for us to cool down for a few hours. Um Things have gotten better since then, not in a consistent way. Like I'm still often misgendered and dead named, and I see that at least on one of my parents' phones that my name is still, my dead name.
I see.
And yeah, so things like that, it varies. And in terms of like trauma, I'm trying to open up to my friends a little bit more. I let them know what was going on Friday in kind of like loose details, and I've been like kind of talking to them like on their own time, like when they're ready to hear it, because I don't want to overwhelm them or like you know like scare them off or make them stressed out.
Right. What do you like about yourself? What do you think you're good at? What do you enjoy doing? Can we get at some of those kinds of things? I'm trying to figure out, you said you wanted some advice, you wanted some insight, and, I've not been where you are. It sounds like some people in the chat have been, and there's already some love going out to you in the chat. Um,
I'll check it out.
but, let's begin with some of your, tell me some good things about yourself. What do you know is good about yourself? What are you good at? And don't be coy. This is anonymous. Tell me what you're good at. Tell me what you like about life. What fills you up and what makes you feel good about your life. What kind of things do that for you?
I try really, really, really hard. I want to like I'm in an environmental science program, marine biology, and
Marine
I've
biology.
already interned. Yeah, I've interned with places multiple times, and like a variety of very like well established places. And when I'm in those environments, I'm like I have some like physical um struggles. I've got like endometriosis and like some like hip pains and stuff like that, but no matter what is going on physically, mentally, like if there's a storm, I keep going because I know that the environment and the oceans and the animals, they all deserve to have a better home. So I like that I keep trying, and I know why I keep trying.
So you're into marine biology. That gives you hope. Does it make you feel? Does that give you a sense of purpose?
Very much so. I've been scuba diving since I was 11, and anytime, I'm near animals in that kind of environment, I feel like more at home than I ever have been on land.
Well, I mean, we've only been talking for about 20 minutes here, but it sounds like that's maybe something you should make some more time for. Do you get to do that a lot? Is that an
Yeah.
easy thing for you to go do? I mean, we can't control the things that recharge us, but if that's something that recharges you and gives you hope, is that something you can prioritize
Yeah.
more?
Luckily, I can actually, now that
Good.
you say that. I am a volunteer at my local aquarium, and
Great.
I'm all qualified to actually dive in a shark tank there to
Wow.
help clean it. Yeah, and they're really beautiful creatures, and I would love to, just be near them and, help keep them happy and safe.
Right. Well, I mean, that's amazing that you know what does that for you. A lot of people have a hard time identifying anything that fills them up. It sounds like you've been through so much turmoil in your life that you've identified some things that you're good at and that you're passionate about, and that's an amazing thing. I don't want you to take that for granted. I'm concerned about you because you said you've been suicidal for many years, and you had an incident on Friday, another brush up with that idea. You cannot let that happen. You are a valuable person. I can tell from just talking to you for a few minutes here. You've got things to offer the world.
Thank you.
What can motivate you? What do you think could motivate you to get you investing more into your own life and the things that you're good at? And what do you think you need to get you to a place where you can? I mean, you're still young. You said you're 20. You're about to turn 21. So I imagine your parents are still at least a relatively decent chunk of your life still.
Yeah.
That it won't always be that way. The older you get, if your parents continue not respecting you and valuing you for what you are and who you are, then it won't always be that way. In your mid to late 20s, you're gonna have your own life, and that life contains only the things that you put in it. And that might seem like a long way off from now because, your 20s kind of go, in my experience, your 20s go pretty slow. Like my teen years went really fast, and then my 20s went really slow, and then my 30s so far have just been a blur. So, but what I'm trying to say is that before you know it, like you're going to have your own life, and you're going to have everything, you're structured the way that serves you and that, sets you up to contribute to society in the best way you can. And I want to know that I mean, you're in a really delicate spot. I don't want to hang up the phone with you until I know that you've got some kind of you're going away tonight with some kind of positivity, some kind of motivation, some kind of next step in mind for tomorrow. That you can begin building from. It sounds like you need that.
Yeah. Well, what you said earlier about my self-doubt, that made me realize I don't put full effort into doing things because I have self-doubt, but then I doubt myself because I don't put full effort into things.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what I'm going to do is sign up for a volunteer shift at the aquarium and just do it. And, you know, there's like a lot going on, but that could be one thing that I do for myself to make myself feel better.
Right. Moss from the chat says that they are 42 years old and they have no idea. I'm paraphrasing because the chat is it's a mess. But, you know, it says 42 and have no idea what I'm doing. So awesome that you have found some direction and a love for something amazing. The ocean is amazing, spooky business. Seriously, sending you lots of love.
Mm-hmm.
This is a 42-year-old telling
Thank
you
you.
that it's amazing. You've identified something that fills you up. And I told you the same thing a few minutes ago, that it's amazing. You've already identified that it's not I wonder how many 20-year-olds there are in the world knowing that marine biology excites them and gets them riled up. Like that's amazing you've identified that at such a young age. I'm with Moss here from the chat.
Thank you.
I want you to know that's amazing. I want you to know you have value. I want you to know you're supported by people out there, including me, a stranger, and these strangers here in the chat that are listening to you and sending you so much love. And I hope you go back and read the chat, and I hope that you can build the life that will set you up for success and to be a productive contributor to society. It's hard work. You know, I know that. I did not grow up in the most supportive environment, so I know that. You grew up in an extremely unsupportive environment, so I can only, in a fractured way, I can can understand what you're going through, but only, in terms of a fraction. It sounds like you're going through an extreme case, but I relate with it. I resonate with it. It inspires me. And I'm also trying to just let you know that you've got a lot of work to do, because I want to be realistic. You're struggling with suicidal thoughts,
Yeah.
so I want to be realistic with you and let you know you've got a lot of work to do.
Oh yeah.
You've got parents that don't really see you and don't acknowledge your feelings, and that's got to be really tough. I know that's really tough. I'm not trans. I've never been through that kind of rejection from my parents, but I know that, I know what it feels like to have family that's not completely supportive, and I'm just empathizing so hard with you, and I thank you so much for calling in, and I wonder, is there anything else? Is there anything else you want to talk about? You're in an extreme case. I don't want to hang up until I know that you're safe and that you have some positive thoughts that are new, or you called in for a reason, so let's get to the bottom of it. Is there anything else?
Anything else would take up quite a bit of time, and I'm honestly doing better already from this call.
Great.
And I very much so appreciate it, both on my own behalf and behalf of everyone else who tunes in and calls.
Well, I hope you know this is a safe place. You can call in anytime. If this continues to be an issue, please call back. Please call back anytime. Do not give up on yourself. It's going to be a lot of work for you to set yourself up with supportive people around you who value you the way you are. We can't help the way we are, I have a friend who's a comedian. He has back in the day, they had a joke. I'm trying to just keep all this anonymous. Back in the day, they had a joke that they asked some. They were doing some video. It was supposed to be a funny video, and they asked some, middle-aged, clearly straight white guy in a suit in a business meeting context. They asked them on camera, "So when did you decide to be straight?" And the guy just lost it. He was just didn't know how to. He's fumbling over his words and stuff. The point is that we can't help the way that we're born.
Right.
I know that. I wasn't born trans. I wasn't born gay. I wasn't born any of these minorities that are getting attention these days, and they deserve attention, in my opinion. But I wasn't born with any of those things. I was born with a much more obscure hardship, and a lot of it came from religion. And I'm just empathizing with you that I know what that's like to some degree. I don't know exactly what it's like to be you, but I can relate with being misunderstood and not feeling appreciated and feeling like people just want to change you, and they don't get it. And they just think the world's a lot simpler than it really is. And it's like, clearly it's not simpler than it really is. And I don't know if that's helpful for you to hear, but I understand that dynamic. And I'm really sorry to hear where you are. It sounds like you sound like a really smart person. You sound like you got a good head on your shoulders. It sounds like you're going places, hopefully with marine biology. And I want to give you a second chance because you mentioned you're dealing with thoughts of suicide. I don't want to hang up till I know that you're okay. But I'm going to give you a third chance now to share anything else that may be on your mind. Is there anything else that you want to talk about before we hang up?
Real quick, I guess you mentioned something about religion, and I completely changed religion because I've been able to, break free from only hearing about Catholicism, and now I'm actually pagan, and I'm a lot happier with that, and yeah.
That's quite a jump.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to believe what you believe in on your own terms instead of, this is the only way, or else the Old Testament God is going to eat you and send you to hell.
Pagan, that's OG. That's some OG Judaism right there. Yeah. Sorry, no offense to anybody who may be Jewish or Christian, but that's some OG Judaism. Facts. Those are facts. Sorry, guys. Those are facts. Well, I'm happy to hear you laughing a little bit. I'm over the moon that you called in, and I'm over the moon that you didn't give up on yourself last Friday. Thank you so much for calling and sharing your story. I hope you call back anytime. Please call back any other time you need to talk.
Thank you very much.
Take care of yourself. Wow. Thank you, chat, for supporting that caller. There's a lot of good ideas in there. I couldn't get to all of them. I tried to highlight a couple. We're going to turn these lines back on. Here we go. Hi, thanks for calling.
Hi. Oh, okay. So I was thinking about talking about something that happened to me when I was younger with my dad.
Okay.
I
appreciate you diving right in.
I don't remember. Pardon me?
Oh, it just sounds like you've thought about what you want to say, and I appreciate that. I'm glad that sounds like you've prepared something. Thank you.
No problem. I don't even know if I've told my husband this happened to me, but
oh boy.
Okay. He's sitting right here, so he'll hear it anyway. Good. Yeah, when I was younger, like 14, almost 15, my mom passed away, and shortly after that, my dad, he became very abusive to me and my siblings, but sorry, I'm getting a little nervous.
Don't be nervous.
Yeah, he one night he took me aside. We were watching TV or something, and he just asked me if I wanted to put on something my mom wore on their wedding day, and I just thought maybe it was a dress or something.
Oh no.
And it ended up being lingerie.
Oh no.
I'm glad I had the piece the straight. I can't put my words together, but
just take your time.
I knew I shouldn't do that.
Right. You knew at a young age that was a bad idea.
So I did not do that.
How old were you at the time?
I was 15.
Wow.
Yeah, but ever since then I've had a I don't think he even recognizes that he did anything wrong. That's the weirdest thing. Yeah. So I haven't really had a good relationship with him, and I don't think it's affected my marriage currently. But it definitely took me into a weird place with other men. Like, I would get boyfriends just to like feel wanted,
Hmm.
and it was jerks and everything. And yeah, I don't know. Don't really know what I'm unpacking here, but yeah.
So did your dad
It
try
was
to do
crazy.
anything? Was it just that he tried to get you to put some um, lingerie on and you said no? And was that the extent of it? Did anything else happen? Was it did he continue with that? What else is there?
No, like I just said no, and I don't even remember after that. Like completely black. I just remember saying no, and I think he tried to convince me to do it a couple times, but then I just like said no. I'm going to bed now. Like this is over.
I see.
But yeah.
And your relationship with your dad has suffered because of this.
Well, and also like the abuse and stuff. Like he started being really mean and like hitting my younger brother and my older brother, and I never let him hit me. I was pretty strong in that sense, but yeah,
Well, that's
it's
good.
been not the greatest. And now I have two kids, and he wants to get to know them, and I don't want him to get to know them. And it's
Right.
just he never thinks he's done anything wrong, like at all, even with the abuse and everything.
He
So
hasn't
it's
apologized for
been weird.
anything, it sounds like.
No, nothing.
How old are you now?
I'm almost 36, so older.
Okay. So you made it a long way.
Yeah.
You're a strong person. How long has it been since you've talked to your
Trying
dad?
to. Well, I think this is why it came up recently because he just showed up at my house like what 3 days ago, um, and he always just shows up once in a while, like every couple months, but it's always for his own weird reasons. Like he needs to give something to my uncle, or I don't know. It's just he doesn't really want to get to know me. He just wants to tell me something, and then if I say anything about me, he gets upset and leaves. So very weird.
So are you I'm sorry if I'm struggling to understand, but are you no contact with your dad right now? Or is it just like medium chill and you see him sometimes, but it's medium chill? Or are you no contact? What's the dynamic?
No, we have contact. I never contact him directly. Like it's always him wanting to like just give something to somebody through me.
I see.
So his current wife is a real jerk, and she's telling him all these bad things about me, even though she doesn't know me at all. So his perceptive perspective of me is quite low because of her.
Oh, I'm really sorry to hear that.
Anyway,
I know that parental issues can be really difficult and it can be hard for... What is it about the boomers? Boomers can be really
yeah.
dismissive of their own faults. Like, I feel like most millennials I know are happy to, and even Gen Xers, a lot of Gen Xers, millennials, and Gen Zers are happy to own their faults. I don't know what it is about older generations. They just don't want to say they've done anything wrong. That's not a blanket statement. I know there's exceptions, of course, to every rule. But
Yeah.
I'm just trying to empathize with you, and I know what that's like, and I'm really
Mhm.
sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
Well, what would make this a beneficial call for you?
I don't know. I wasn't actually expecting you to answer. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I guess I just kind of wanted like someone to tell me like it's okay to like let him go. I don't know, which is a weird thing to ask, but like to just continue on this not needing forgiveness or not needing like apologies. Like I forgive him, but I don't need him to apologize, kind of thing. I don't know.
I get that.
I'm
I get what you're
not
talking
used to
about.
talking to people about this.
Do you have a therapist? Do you have someone that can, I mean, obviously, I'm going to be really reluctant to tell you not to ever talk to your dad again just here on a
Right,
short phone
obviously.
call. All
Yeah,
I know is what you're telling me. Is there someone in your
yeah.
corner that is walking with you and unpacking this with you, and that is a sounding board that can go through that with you, or are you completely alone? What's the deal? Aside from
Yeah,
your
like
husband.
my uncle, other than my husband. My uncle is pretty good. He's my mom's brother. He's a psychologist, and he likes
Oh,
to talk to me about these things.
okay. That's great resource you
Um,
have.
yeah, yeah. And my siblings try to talk to me, but they're kind of, I don't know. They don't really. I feel very alone in my family. Like I don't feel like I have family. So other than my uncle and my aunt.
Do they not see
But
what's
yeah,
the
he's a
deal?
psychologist. Pardon me?
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Do your siblings not see what the deal is? Are they just like, what's the deal?
Yeah, like they've all told me that they've like completely blocked out their childhood because of how bad it was after my mom died. So they don't talk about it at all, and they don't. Yeah, we just don't talk to each other. We don't live in the same city, and
So they're
yeah,
just shoving it down and not acknowledging it.
yeah.
I can relate.
Okay.
Yeah, that's yeah, what you're going through is really hard. Not many people end up contemplating going no contact with their family. That's extreme. It's something to be taken
Yeah.
really seriously. And it sounds like you've got an uncle who's a psychologist. I don't know if you've processed this with someone who's not a family member, like a therapist or a counselor who's outside of the situation. They can just listen. Your uncle may be biased because he's your uncle. So I think it's while that person's a great
Yeah.
resource, that person may be biased. I think that going no contact with a family member is an extremely it's an extreme decision, so
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not going to make a recommendation on this on a short call. Obviously, there's some ideas going out in the chat. It sounds like there's some people who've gone no contact in the chat that have left some thoughts that you can read through, but like I'm not officially here gonna tell you not to talk to your dad
Right,
again.
right.
Maybe
That
there's
makes
some
sense.
useful food for thought in the chat. But I will say that it sounds like you're in a really dismissive situation where no one's really acknowledging the weirdness. No one's really acknowledging um, the disrespect, and no one's really acknowledging um, the lack of space that you're given in the family. And it sounds like maybe you
Mhm.
have siblings that just expect you to fall in line and just capitulate. None of that's healthy. I will say that much. I'm
Mhm.
cutting to the chase here, not to be rude, but to just kind of get to the point because I'm not going to make a recommendation on going no contact. But I will say
Oh
I know what it's
yeah.
like to have capitulating siblings. I know what it's like to have people
Mhm.
that just don't can't give you the benefit of the doubt, can't hear you because I think it's like a credibility issue. Once you've jumped out of the nest in your family and you're taking your own path and you've taken a stand, there's like this loss of credibility. I don't know if that makes
Mhm.
sense to you, but it's something I've gone through where you get this loss of credibility with certain family members, and they're just like, oh, well, that person just doesn't. They don't want to be in the family anymore, and that's like a total miss when people take it there. It's a total miss, and
Mhm.
it's a tragic miss, because it's an opportunity for healing. It's an opportunity for a relationship to be possible. But, it's a relationship's a two-way street. It takes two people willing to relate to one another, not just expect that someone's going to fall in line and do what they think they're going to do, you know.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you're not in a relationship that's free of expectation. And I hate that for you. And yeah, I mean, if I were in your shoes, I would definitely be really reluctant to talk to my dad. If I were in your shoes, I would probably be in the same exact place where you are.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, it's tough.
Is there anything else, or what can we do here with this time to make this a productive call?
um, I don't know. Yeah, I guess that's all I can. I don't know. I mean, yeah.
It sounds like you're processing a lot.
Yeah, like that's probably the first time I've ever said that out loud. So I'm like, maybe I shouldn't have talked about this.
Well, I don't
Yeah.
know who you are. I don't want to know.
Yeah. Yeah, that too.
I think these kinds of stories are helpful for people to hear. I mean, because here's the thing, like what you just shared is amazing because more people ought to know that people go through things like this. I know what it's like to have family issues with your parents and siblings and to feel like you're the only one going through it. Um, but the truth is a lot of people are going through it. Not the majority of people, fortunately, but a lot of people are going through it. And it's helpful to just, it's helpful to, in my experience, it's helpful to have people that don't care about what your name is or, what you're, where you're from. They just, what are the similar experiences? That's what brings people together is, experiences. And you've got an extreme experience.
Yeah. True.
Do you feel like your uncle will be a good resource for you moving forward? Or do you think that therapy or a counselor might be better? Is that within your realm of possibility to get a counselor?
He's a good resource. I've had a counselor before. I've had a few counselors, but they always just tell me, like, you know what you're doing. You can handle this. I don't know if they're the right kind of counselors then.
Right.
They do that. So.
Well, there's a lot of good ideas in the chat. I don't know which of them are applicable to you, but I have a feeling when you read through, you'll know which ones are applicable to you, and you can kind of cherry pick or, take or leave what seems right. Kind of the beauty of these calls is that they're not therapy. They're just like, we just hear stories and your stories. I just want to encourage you that I don't know if you're hearing this in your family, but I hope it's helpful to hear that you're not a monster for contemplating things like this within your own family. Like sometimes that's the only thing you can do. And I don't know what it'll ultimately come to for you. I'm not you. I'm not in your shoes, but that doesn't make you a monster. At the very least, I can say that. Sometimes people have to do this. Sometimes it's the best option is to just go no contact and go your own way,
Yeah, because I've been thinking about my kids and not knowing their grandpa might be weird, but because they also don't know their grandma because she passed away, so it's like who they have, but yeah.
Right. Doesn't make you a monster. I know these things are difficult. I've got kids too, and I've been no contact with some family members for some time now, and it's been really difficult, but it's for the best, I'm not going to let my kids be exposed to the things that I was exposed to and repeat things that I was raised in. I'm not going to let that happen. And it sounds like you may be in a similar place. I don't want to project, so I'm being really careful not to. But it sounds like what I'm hearing you talk about, it sounds very similar to some things I've been through. Not precisely the same thing, but similar. And that's why I'm kind of just doubling down on this whole, like, it doesn't make you a monster idea. Like it doesn't, I don't know if you're hearing that, but you may hear that, especially if you pull the trigger on something like this. You're going to meet all kinds of resistance, but it doesn't make you a monster. And you'll know that when you wake up every day and you just live in your life and you're, it feels better. It can feel better if it comes to that. I'm trying to encourage you. If it comes to that, it can be for the better. I'm about 5 or 6 years into that. About 5 years into that journey now. And if it can feel better. So I'm glad you called in and shared. It helped me. I don't know if it was helpful to anybody else, but I'm glad you called in.
Okay, no problem. I'm glad I called in too.
Take care of yourself. Call back anytime.
All right, thanks. Okay.
Wow. Hi, thanks for calling.
Hello?
Hi, thanks for calling.
Hey, what's up?
Hi, what do you want to talk about?
Oh, man, I don't know.
You don't know?
Got a cold. Hey, man, I've just been trying to get through. Maybe I didn't think about what
Toast. If you don't know why you're calling, don't call. Please respect the callers that are calling in with extreme stories. It's not funny. Joke's on you guys. I'm not being a jerk. All right. Can open up these lines again. Hi, thanks for calling.
Hi.
What do you want to talk about?
Well, recently I've been kind of struggling with, well, it's kind of indirect, but, like self-harm. It's indirect, but it's purposely still. Like, for example, turn the fireplace on. I sit next to it until I, like, start to hurt. Like, my hand starts to burn a lot, and I put, like, sit out in the cold until I feel, like, numb. Like, so, do you know what I mean by, like, kind of indirect self-harm?
Yeah, you take a slow and steady approach to self-harm, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't sound like you're cutting yourself, but it sounds like you're putting yourself in dangerous places and just sitting there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know why you're doing it?
Well, there's been, like, a lot of problems going on. Like, I lost all of my friends to anger issues and stuff. My dad has been horrible. I've sorry, I forgot what it was. Oh yeah, I've gotten no sleep, and I don't know why I necessarily do it. It might just be to feel something, if that makes any sense. Not like like, just, I don't really know how to explain it.
Let's slow down.
But
Let's take it one at a time. You mentioned that you lost some friends due to some anger issues. Is that right? And tell me about that.
yeah. Well, they made me really mad over fights and stuff, and some people have been gossiping and things and spreading rumors about me that are not true at all. I get really, really mad at the wrong people, and I scream and say some things that I don't mean, and I never speak to them again. I lost my best friend of 5, 6 years due to one of those.
Okay.
Due to that. Some people purposely try to aggravate me. They've admitted. But yeah, they've purposely done it, and then when I do end up getting mad, they act like I'm just screaming at them for no reason and make up a fake scenario as to why I'm screaming at them.
Right.
And they believe that. And, yeah, and I end up losing friends because they just see me as a psychotic numbskull that screams at people for no reason whatsoever.
It sounds like people know how to push your buttons.
Yeah.
We all have buttons.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone, I'm 30. I'll be 35 soon, and I have buttons. I know some 70-year-olds with some buttons. I don't know if that's helpful to hear, but I'm just trying to encourage you that I understand that. I know what it's. I've had people push my buttons my whole life. I remember. It sounds like you're young. I remember being in my teen years, and it's a very developmental age. You're learning to self-regulate. You're learning to self-soothe, and all these things. And that could be the worst time for a friendship because you're learning who your real friends are. I mean, I was fortunate to come out of my teen years with a couple of friends that I'm still friends with to this day, maybe 2 or 3. The rest of them I've not talked to anymore. Not because all of them were jerks, but a lot of them really did there's a lot of button pushers. There's a lot of people that they don't know how to relate to people. They don't know how to have relationships, so they just push buttons, and they try to validate their own opinion of you by pushing the buttons they know will work. And we all have those buttons. Everyone does. So to start with, it doesn't make you broken or messed up that you've got some buttons. Everyone's got some buttons. So what else is there? You mentioned you had some friends that were pushing your buttons, and you lost some good friends, and then you went into some other things.
Yeah, also, I haven't gone to sleep earlier than 3 in the morning for the past 3 months.
Okay.
I don't know why that is, but I have a lot of, like, I haven't been taking care of myself very well at all, and that's one of the things. I have horrible memory now because of it. Like, I forget things that are said to, like, the sentence before I start to speak, or, like, I focus on something for half of a second before talking.
That's good.
Still, and I completely forget what I was going to say and what the conversation was about because because of a lack of sleep so much, I completely forget everything.
Do you have a therapist? Do you have a counselor or a shrink?
I have a counselor at my school, yes.
Have you ever been tested for ADHD?
No, I had not.
You might have something like that. I mean, it's hard to pinpoint ADHD, and I'm not qualified to do that. To be very clear, I'm not a psychologist, but I was told long ago that I might have ADHD by a counselor or a psychologist a long time ago. It seems like now they were wrong, but I probably have something like that. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
I'm not a psychologist, but I'm asking because it sounds familiar. I also have to really focus on a conversation to not lose my train of thought. I know what that's like. And I also can keep myself up to all hours of the night. I know what that's like to be laying in bed and you just can't sleep. And it sounds like you're in a place where you're just having trouble sleeping. Is it that your mind is racing? Is it that you're worried about the next day? Is it something like that that's keeping you up?
Sort of. Yeah, it's kind of like, well, one, my mind is racing. I'm like, kind of worried about the next day because some things could change just like so quick, and I don't really want that to happen. So I'm just kind of worried about the next day and what's going to happen, how many friends I'm going to lose.
Right.
I completely forgot what. Yeah, see, like that is.
Are you struggling to remember where we were?
Yeah, I was.
No problem.
I did.
No problem. You were telling me, we were talking about a list of things that you were going through that are difficult. You mentioned that you are going through some misunderstanding at school and that people like to push your buttons, and then you mentioned that you're not sleeping and that you deal with these racing thoughts that keep you up all night. And then I believe there was a third thing that you touched on at the beginning, and I apologize, I can't remember what it was. I was trying to track with you, but I feel like you mentioned a third thing. I could be wrong. That was contributing.
It was my dad.
That's right. What about your dad? Tell me about your dad.
He's abusive. He's out of my life. I blocked him on everything. He still it just kind of worries me about what either he's trying to text me over my blocked contact, what he's texting my mom, what he's texting my stepdad,
Right.
is what he's texting my family. That's what I'm most worried about, because he has done some really bad stuff, and I'm just worried that he'll, like, threaten one of them, kind of.
How old are you?
13.
13. And no contact with your dad.
No.
That's intense. I'm so sorry to hear that.
It was by choice. I
Sounds like it.
don't want to talk to him.
I'm so sorry to hear that even still. That's a huge loss for you. Even if it was an abusive parent, it's a huge loss for you. I hope you realize that.
Yeah.
Um,
I always used to think that he was, like, he used to be an amazing parent, but now that I'm kind of not older, I'm still a kid, but I'm just kind of worried that, no, not worried. Crap.
don't worry. This is an easy place. Don't worry. If you miss something, we'll pick it back up. You
What?
can you tell me about your dad? You mentioned. Do you mind sharing about like what specifically caused you to go no contact with your dad? What kinds of things was he doing? What, if you don't mind sharing?
Well, he posted an ad on, like, Kijiji or something, saying that he was gonna hurt himself. The police came. He was too drunk to comply, so he got arrested and tased. He was abusive towards my mom, towards us, me, my two brothers. He accused he's like a hardcore narcissist. He never thinks he has ever done anything wrong. He thinks that we are just acting like victims, and that my mom, quote unquote, brainwashed us.
I'm really sorry to hear that. That's an extreme situation.
Yeah, there's a lot of other things. Oh yeah, he had a freak out with us one night when we were at his house. One of many freakouts. This one was, like, kind of crossing the line, though. He kicked us out of his house at 3 a.m. Because my mom was calling my stepmom, saying that she felt safer when she was there, and he heard that and went on a rampage and kicked us out at 3 a.m.
Goodness. So just to recap for people who may just be joining, we have a caller who is 13. We don't know their name. This is all anonymous. They've been self-harming in some incremental ways, and they're seeking some support. They're self-harming because of some abuse that's happened in their family. They're in no contact with their father. And my heart just goes out to you. I wonder, I mean, you know that if your dad, I want to be really careful because you're really young, and I don't know what you need to hear. I don't know, what. Let me start by saying, what would make this a beneficial call for you? What would be helpful here for you? Did you just want to get that off your chest? Are you looking for some ideas?
Yeah.
Do you need support from the chat? What's helpful for you right now?
Well, some ideas on how to get sleep.
There's a bunch of good
Some
sleep ideas in the chat. One person recommended unplugging a bunch of technology and just getting outside every day and wearing yourself out. I will say that's a surefire way to get some sleep. If it's really that bad, that you're laying in bed awake all night and you're in school. You're in an intense part of school. It sounds like if you're 13, that's an intense time of schooling. You need to be at 100% for your schooling.
I get about 4 to 3 hours of sleep every night.
Yeah, you need like 10, maybe.
Yeah.
You're growing. Your brain's developing. It will be for another 10 years at least. You need sleep. I wonder if we can switch gears to some really practical things. Are you spending a lot of time on your phone or a computer or in front of screens? Is there any way you can cut out time and just get outside and just run or, play some sports with your friends? Is there any way you can just exhaust your body a couple times, like three or four times a week?
Yeah, I do watch like YouTube before bed and like snack before bed.
Ooh,
a lot.
I would not do that. That blue light will keep you up.
Yeah. I mainly just watch like kind of. There's just one YouTuber, it's quiet, and I fall asleep to his videos, but
Like an ASMR kind of thing?
no, not really.
Okay, well.
It's more of like gaming thing, but he doesn't scream. But, he just talks quiet, and it's calming, so I just fall asleep to that. Or my fan on, like white noise.
White noise is good. Can you wear yourself out, though?
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to figure out. Do you have any time you can just go wear yourself out physically?
I mean, I have a treadmill, like, right beside my room.
Can you get outside? Treadmill's good, but can you get outside? Do you have friends that can wear yourself out with?
Not necessarily. I do go on walks, like, with my dog a lot, but, I run at school sometimes, but I don't necessarily go out for lunch recesses a lot because I'm working on Dungeons and Dragons things, but...
Okay. At least Dungeons and Dragons isn't screens. Mark M. from the chat says, I watched way too much YouTube when I was a kid, and I seriously regret that. Might be something to consider. I know I'm telling you that here on YouTube. I have nothing against YouTube, to be clear. YouTube's an amazing resource for all kinds of things. But right before bed, after the sun goes down, maybe even, maybe you could have some kind of nighttime ritual where you're slowly winding down and getting ready to fall asleep. Maybe have some tea, read a book. These things sound boring, but these are the things that put us to sleep. There's interesting books. You're into Dungeons and Dragons. I don't have to tell you that.
Yeah.
You're reading a lot in Dungeons and Dragons, I believe. I've only played a few times, but I remember there being a lot of reading and words.
Yeah, there is. Crap.
So let's shift gears here. You're self-harming. And your dad, it sounds like there's a history of self-harming in your family. It sounds like your dad has threatened suicide.
Yeah.
So I just want to... It seems like maybe you've made I don't know your full story, and going no contact with a parent is serious, but it seems like you put a lot of thought into that, and that was a really intentional decision. And it seems like that has brought you some sense of peace, having no contact with your father. But I just want to make sure that you understand that. That's great. I'm glad to hear that. But I do since you're self-harming, it doesn't make it any better if you're no contact with your dad and you're still self-harming. And I'm not trying to come down on you at all, but I'm just trying to be really efficient in telling you that, like, when people go to that place, it's a tragic thing to lose a parent. If you go no contact with a parent, it's tragic. It's only worth it if we're able to make positive steps towards, new life choices. It's not good if you're we got to find some ways for you to feel better about yourself and to maybe is it that you're really hard on yourself? Do you believe what these kids tell you when they're hard on you? It sounds like you got some friends that like to push your buttons.
Yeah, I do, because I don't have the best look at myself. I don't necessarily feel good about myself in any way. Like, I'm really, kind of, I'm not the skinniest. Like, I'm not overweight, but
I'm kind of losing
definitely
signal.
not. Yeah, losing a couple pounds wouldn't hurt.
I hear you now. I lost you for a second. It was kind of quiet, but I got the gist of what you're saying. You're saying that you're struggling with some weight issues and some self-image issues, and that you feel like, if I heard you correctly, it sounded like you said you want to lose a couple pounds. Is that right?
Yeah, but I don't have any motivation to do so.
What about the new life that's out there waiting for you? You got your whole life in front of you. You said you're 13. Your whole life is ahead of you. I mean, 13 is not... 13 is a strange age because it feels like you've arrived, and you really haven't. Even when you're 18, you haven't arrived. You haven't really arrived, in my opinion, until you're like 28. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in like a that you're irrelevant. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying like there are so many other things that are in store for you that you can't even anticipate yet because you're 13. I mean, I'm not discrediting where you are because it's a huge. When you're 13, it's definitely it's a developmental leap for sure, and you sound like a smart kid. So I'm not coming down on you or trying to be. I'm not trying to say you got a lot of work. I mean, you do have some work to do, but I'm not saying that you don't know what you're talking about or something. I want to be very clear. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that you have so much beautiful life ahead of you. You've got to take care of yourself. I mean, I don't know where that motivation will come from. It's going to be really difficult to get to the bottom of that on a short phone call in one night. But you said you had a counselor. A counselor is a great place to. That's a beautiful relationship that you have. Your counselor can be there for you and help you find ways to love yourself and value yourself and invest in yourself. And I just want to, if there's one thing I leave you with tonight, I want it to be that you are worth investing into, and it's going to be worth the work for you to find. There will be something, I don't know what it is. Again, on a short phone call, I'm not going to be able to help you find what it is, but a counselor will be able to help you find something within yourself that you can be proud of and love and invest into. I guarantee you there's something in there that you love in yourself. I guarantee you it's there. You're 13, so it's going to take you some time to find it maybe. You have some value in this world. You have something to contribute. You have something to say. You have something to do. And you're going to find it. It sounds like you're just in a really hard place right now. I can't imagine being 13 and having an abusive father that I don't talk to anymore. That's a really dark place to be in, and you're self-harming. I'm trying to encourage you. I don't know if this sounds encouraging because I'm giving some hard advice, but I'm trying to do two things. I'm trying to say you've got some work to do, but also that I can tell you're a beautiful person that really is struggling with some some sense of meaning and purpose, and you've had some friends that have pushed your buttons, and you've been dealt an unfair hand of cards. And so I'm just being real with you when I say these things. I'm not being condemning or saying that there's. I don't think there's any. If you apply yourself, if you can. Let me ask you this: what do you like doing outside of just watching things and consuming content and games and things? What do you think you're good at?
I'm good at geography.
Geography. Okay. Great.
I like hang out with the friends that I do have. Sorry, what was the question again?
I was just asking you what you feel like you excel at. What are you good at? Geography is a great one. There's so many things you can do with being good at geography. I wish I was better at geography.
I'm good at art, well, certain types of art.
Okay. There you go.
I'm good at crocheting.
Crochet. Wow. Dare I say that's very progressive of you. I don't know if anybody will get that joke, but it's a compliment. It's a joke and a compliment. That's great. There's all kinds of things that you like doing and that you're good at, it sounds like.
Yeah.
What if there's a life out there for you, 8 years from now when you're in your 20s, where you're being paid for geography or art and you don't have to deal with your dad's shenanigans? Doesn't that sound like a life worth fighting for and investing in?
Yeah.
That's the hope I want to leave you with tonight. I apologize. That's all I can give you. I'm not a counselor. I'm not a psychologist. This is a place where we just hear stories, and we want to hear stories like yours. My heart breaks that you're hurting yourself, that you're self-harming. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear from you in 6 months saying, I've lost some weight. I've been investing in myself. I believe in myself. I've got these hobbies I really enjoy. I'm sleeping better. And I've got a dream for what I'll do with my life in my 20s, right after high school. These are things that they may seem like pipe dreams to you right now because you're so young, but you will be there sooner than you think, and you can get there with some self-application. And you've been dealt a very unfair hand of cards. I want to just repeat that because it's true. You've got some work to do because of that. I know what that's like to some extent, to have the odds set against you in a lot of ways with family and whatnot.
Yeah.
That's hard, but you can do it. And it says a lot about you that you called in tonight. A lot of people don't call places like this. A lot of people don't, a lot of people, when they get to a really dark place, they just give up. And that can look a lot of different ways. But I'm so glad you called in tonight. And thank you for sharing. And I'm wondering if there's anything else you want to talk about or get off your chest.
No, not really. I just want to thank you for listening and talking to me.
Of course, anytime. How do you feel right now?
Motivated.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
First time in a while.
Great. Don't lose that tomorrow. What are you going to do tomorrow? Give me a practical step. What are you going to do tomorrow towards progress?
I'm definitely going to go for a walk. Maybe practice crocheting, geography, cooking, clean myself up a little bit, like my room.
Good.
Get a haircut.
Wow, that's a big day tomorrow. You got a big day.
Yeah.
And maybe you start tonight. Maybe this is the last. Maybe you turn your screens off after this. Maybe you just try to wind down and get some sleep. You got a big day tomorrow.
Yeah.
Sleep is important.
It is.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad you called in. Please call back if this continues to be an issue.
Okay.
Thanks for sharing.
You.
Good night.
Good night.
Amazing, guys. Thank you for supporting these callers. We are going to take a quick break. I will be back in about 5 minutes. We're going to do fewer breaks tonight, but we're going to do slightly longer intermissions. We're going to do about 2 of them. I'm just trying things. We're trying to figure out a good rhythm here. So bear with me. We're going to take a 5-minute intermission, and I'll be right back. All right. We're back. For those who are just joining, this is a live stream where we are taking anonymous callers internationally, toll-free, at this number that's just appeared here on the screen. And this is a number anyone can call anywhere in the world, toll-free, and share something difficult that they're going through or something they want to get off their chest, a confession even. I'd like to open this up to confessions, anonymous confessions. Been meaning to do that for a couple days now. So if you got something you want to confess anonymously or something that you want to just help processing through with the chat and through a phone call, this is a place you can do that. So this is just a funky place where we're trying to, bring people together instead of driving them apart. So that's what this is. And give me a second to catch up again and get these phone lines active again. Yes, I'm the naked shower guy. That's correct, Thomas, from the chat. I am the naked shower guy. I guess that's what defines my life. I'm the naked shower guy. Here we are. All right. Hi, thanks for calling.
All right.
Hi. Honestly, I didn't think I was going to be able to get through.
What do you want to talk about?
I've got a bit of a unique situation.
Can you turn your speakers down so I can hear you?
Oh, yeah, sorry. I'm going to move to another room. Yeah, I'm kind of in a unique situation at this point in my life.
Okay.
I'm getting married at the end of this month. And instead of being happy, I'm actually terrified.
Okay.
I think the worst part of it is I've been married once before. I got married at 21 because I was pregnant with my now ex-husband's child, and his family was incredibly Catholic and kind of forced the marriage. And everything kind of leading up to that, like, it was really toxic, and I hadn't had much experience with religion prior to that because my family isn't particularly religious. And after we got married and moved in together, and after I had my daughter, he was always kind of abusive, but it got even worse after she was born, to the point where it kind of like threw me into worse depression and anxiety than I already had, and like a whole bunch of self-inflicted anorexia as well, to kind of get to a point where he would want to leave me because of the way that I looked.
Wow. So let me make sure I got this. You were married, you're about to get married on your second marriage. Your first marriage was at 21. You got married because you were pregnant, and there was some pressure from your ex-husband's family who was very religious, and they wanted to see you guys get married. So you got married. And that ended because your husband, there was some dysfunction in the marriage. It sounds like your husband was abusive, and you were driven to a place of anorexia, and your husband left you because of how you looked. Is that right?
So I was trying to get that to happen because I didn't want to leave, because I felt like if I was the one that left, then he would come after me. So I tried to get to the point where it would be his decision, but it never happened that way.
So how did it happen? You left him?
I had been visiting my mom with my daughter for a couple of weeks because my mom lives in a different state. And we came back, and I was tired of the lies because he was a sociopathic, manipulative liar, and tired of him threatening to kill himself because he knew how I felt about mental illness. He never had any intention. He would just say it because he knew how I felt about my friends that had mental illnesses. And I got a divorce. I filed for divorce.
I see.
I mean, I got me and my daughter out of a really toxic place, but I mean, the hard part is having a child with my abuser. And I mean, I guess with this next wedding coming up, I mean, my current fiance has been nothing but great to me ever since I've met him.
That sounds good.
And he moved, yeah, he's amazing, and he moved in very quickly, but it was never like a big problem for us.
Okay.
Like, it just felt natural to the way that we moved in our relationship. The thing that I think is bothering me right now is I'm letting a lot of the things that my ex-husband said kind of get to my head now, because that's the only frame of reference that I know for marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And part of me is afraid that the current anxiety, depression, and other host of mental illnesses that I've been diagnosed with since leaving my ex will at some point cause my new soon-to-be husband to leave me.
I see. So you've got some apprehension about your new marriage because of some baggage from your previous marriage.
Yeah, and we see a couples therapist.
That's
and
good.
I have my own personal therapist, and I also see a psychiatrist because, as I said, I had some other mental health diagnoses actually just within the past couple of months that we're working through.
Do you mind sharing what those are?
The diagnoses?
That's right, yeah.
My full diagnosis is, on top of the anxiety, depression, also CPTSD, and bipolar, possible ADHD. I'm confirmed on the ADHD though.
Okay. What was the first one you said? COCD? I never heard of that. Maybe I didn't hear it right.
Oh, CPTSD. It's like a subsect of regular PTSD.
Oh, CPTSD. What does the C stand for?
Oh, geez. Sorry, I know the diagnosis, but I can't remember that off the top of my head. I think, if I remember correctly, CPTSD
Complex post-traumatic stress disorder.
Oh, okay, yeah. I believe it's more situationally based. Again, I could be very wrong.
Right. Stacy Janeway from the chat is asking if you've talked with your fiance about all of this.
I have.
So that's good. So your new fiance is aware of where you are and is aware that you're dealing with some. To what extent do they know? Do they know that you're apprehensive about getting married again?
He knows literally everything.
That seems really good. That seems really healthy.
Yeah, because he is more on the neurotypical side of things, sometimes it is more difficult for him to understand the extent of my emotions.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not, but the whole thing is nobody's perfect, and nobody's, especially with somebody that doesn't necessarily know the extent of mental illness, they're never going to be 100% perfect with helping somebody when they don't know exactly how it is. But he does his best. And he encouraged me to start the medication that my psychiatrist had me start when I was scared to. He was a big proponent of me starting it because he knew that it would help me. And so far, it has started to. It's just with the wedding stress, it kind of mitigates the effects of the medication just a bit.
Yeah. How old are you now? You've been through a lot in your life. I'm curious how far you've come.
Oh, I just turned 27.
Okay. Well, that's your late 20s are a hard time of life. The late 20s, in my opinion, never get enough credit for what they are. It's a really difficult time of life. I'm in my mid 30s now, and my late 20s were probably the hardest years of my life. I've been through things since then that were more difficult, like experiences, but like developmentally, your late 20s are a very difficult time. So automatically I'm thinking that just from what I know about being that age, that you're automatically under a lot because of where you are developmentally, surely. And also, you mentioned all these other things that you've gone through in your life that are just super heavy. So I can tell in your voice, that I believe you. I believe what you're telling me, that you're really nervous. But it also sounds like you really love your fiance. Sounds like there's a real connection there, and it feels like maybe that's a relationship where you feel seen in a way that you haven't been seen before.
Yeah, and I mean, it is scary, and like as I'm saying everything, I'm also like shaking because I love him more than I have loved any other romantic partner in my life. He, even more than some of my family, because that's a whole other can of worms, but he supports me in a way that I never would have thought possible.
That seems really good. So where do the nerves come from? Is it just the baggage? And I don't mean just the baggage, as in that's all it is. But I'm wondering, is there anything else contributing to that for you? I'm trying to be really specific. Like, what else is there? Is that all there is, or is there something more?
I mean, I'm also a crazy people pleaser. So on top of my really bad host of mental things going on, I mean, and I grew up that way too, trying to make everybody else happy to spite myself.
Right.
So, like, I have always kind of pushed a lot of my needs to the back burner.
I see.
And, like, he definitely encourages me to start learning more about boundaries and healthy boundaries.
Sounds like a really good influence.
But he's been through a lot of shit too, but like he has gotten to the point where he's been able to get through a decent amount of it.
Mm-hmm.
And he coped with it a lot better than I did. Like, he gave himself a lot more, I guess you could say, opportunities for clarity when he was younger that kind of helped him realize where he wanted to be. And I mean, that's something I'm, like, just within the past couple of years, I've been able to start doing that myself. Like, I know I heard another caller on here say that she converted to paganism. That's something that I recently outed to my family. So that's been a big part of things, and he's 100% supportive of that. That's actually a big thing for the wedding, because it's going to be a fully pagan wedding.
You said it's going to be a fully pagan wedding?
Yeah, we're going to have hand fasting. I have a Greek pagan priest that
Amazing.
I go to rituals with, and we're going to have invocations, and it's going to be so beautiful.
You've made that your own. What a turn of events. So, for those who are just tuning in, I've noticed some chatter in the chat. Chatter in the chat. Is that redundant? Probably.
A bit.
Etymologically, I'm going to say yes. We've got a caller who is first of all, this is a very new thing we're doing. This is a safe forum, a live forum where people can call in and share difficult experiences or problems they want help processing through, or just to get support or to get something off their chest. We have a caller who is about to enter into their second marriage, and their first marriage ended pretty traumatically, and there's some apprehension about the second marriage. Even though the second marriage seems like progress, it feels like a step in the right direction. This new spouse is extremely supportive and is aware of all of the struggles of the first marriage, and we're just trying to help this. We're trying to support this caller, and if we can be helpful to in the chat, if we can be helpful in any way. We're just trying to make this a beneficial call. So for those who are confused, I saw some chatter. So I do wonder where this. It seems like you're stuck. Is that right? What would make this a beneficial call? What are you looking for here? Did you just want to get that off your chest, or are you looking for some emotional support? Do you want ideas? I don't want to project, so you tell me.
I guess it's a combination of a few things. I mean, as I said, my fiance is pretty neurotypical, so with a lot of the emotional things, even though he's supportive, he doesn't always get these strong emotions that I feel.
Right.
So I guess it's some emotional support, and also some ideas and techniques that I could maybe use to help me kind of go into this new start in my life with a more open mind.
Okay. Well, there's a bunch of love going out to you in the chat already, and the chat has been a resource for callers in these episodes, so I hope that after we're done, at the very least, you'll go back and just read through the ideas. They can't all be right, because, of course, everyone in the chat is just sharing from their own experience. So it'll be up to you to go through and be like, yeah, this feels right, that doesn't, that's kind of on you. But, we want to make this, first of all, I just want to support you and acknowledge the work it sounds like you've done. I love to hear that you're in counseling. I love to hear that you've identified some, you shared very openly about some diagnoses you've received, and I love that those are in your mind and you're not just, sweeping those under the rug, and that, because those are real things, those are things we have to take into account. It's not to say that you're to blame for the hardships. I mean, you went through some abuse, it sounds like. So, I'm not saying that you were the abuser, but even still, a lot of, we don't know where our own, everyone has neuroses. We had a caller, one of the last callers called in and said they've lost a bunch of friends because they have some anger issues, and people love to push their buttons. And, I don't know if you heard that call, but everyone has buttons, everyone has neuroses. And sometimes these neuroses come from difficult places in our life. And it sounds like you've been through some difficult things. And the CPTSD that you mentioned is a perfect case in point. That doesn't come from nowhere. You don't just get CPTSD. That comes from some traumatic stress, So, I'm acknowledging that you've been through a lot. And, that I'm really sorry to hear that. But It sounds like you're really, I hear it in your voice. You really love this guy you're going to be marrying. It sounds like you really believe in the marriage. It sounds like maybe you're really scared from past experiences, and that's understandable. I mean, you got CPTSD, so that's perfectly understandable as far as I'm concerned. And I don't know how to tell you how to feel optimistic about your wedding. It sounds like it's happening soon, next week, right? Did I hear correctly? It's happening next week, the wedding?
So it's the end of this month. So it's happening on April 30th.
Yeah, that's soon. So you're getting you're getting hitched. And You know, I just it sounds like you've shared everything with your new fiance. It sounds like your fiance has been incredibly supportive and has had a lot of good ideas for you. So let me ask you, what else is there to be afraid of practically?
Practically and realistically and logically, not a whole bunch.
Right.
I mean, I talk to him and I express a lot of these fears. And the problem sometimes arises that because of all these blockages in my mind, sometimes it's hard for me to remember exactly what I told him. It's hard for me to remember which issues we have resolved.
Mm-hmm.
So I often repeat things. And I think that part of the apprehension comes from that continuing. As much as I'm trying to prevent that from happening with my medication, with reaching out more to, like I said, my multiple care team.
Right.
I really want this to work out. I want this to work out more than anything pretty much that I've ever done.
Well, there's two things I want to say to that. First of all, I want to reference the chat. Offcore from the chat had a thought that I have some thoughts on, but I'll read it as it is, and then I'll give my thoughts, and then I have a separate thought. I hope I can get all this out. This is a lot to hold in my memory bank. I have a very small buffer. But Offcore from the chat says, caller, you have to be open to this marriage. That's the part I have a thought on. But they go on to say, you have to be open to this marriage. You do the same when you meet friends. I think that's right. Meeting a bad human should not sour the next you meet. That's not fair on them. Now, Offcore's right that, there's this vulnerability to relationship. We can't form a relationship unless we're prepared personally to relate to that person. That is, we're going to be vulnerable with them. We're going to show them who we are, and we feel safe to do that. We don't feel like there's going to be any sense of judgment coming from the other party. Offcore is right about that. Now, I will say, the opening statement, you have to be open to this marriage, I have mixed feelings about that, because, marriage is a really serious thing. It's a lot of money, it's a lot of time, it's a massive investment. It's one of the largest investments you can make as an individual. So I'm never quick to, I don't like seeing people rush into marriage, that's a big deal. But it does sound like you are really serious about this person, and that you've taken that step of vulnerability with this person. You've shared. It sounds like this person knows you and sees you and knows your problems, and that I think that's a huge thing you have going for you. I don't know if you realize that or not, but it sounds to me like this is really good news. So I do stand with Offcore, and maybe that's all he meant by you have to be open to this marriage. I think Offcore is a he. I've had some, I don't actually know Offcore's how they identify, so I'm sorry. I just hear you, that you're really struggling with being excited about this marriage. And maybe it's just like that whole, that song, The First Cut is the Deepest. I can't remember the name of that song, but that lyric is such a good lyric. The first cut is the deepest. Classic song, meaning just like the first time you fall in love, it's the deepest cut, I do believe that. So, maybe you're apprehensive about your marriage because it's your second one, and the first one didn't work out, and maybe you're just scared the second one won't work out. But it does sound like you're in a much more positive and productive relationship this time around. It sounds like you've learned some lessons. It sounds like you've done some work. It sounds like you've set yourself up for a lot of success. I haven't been talking to you for too long here, so it's really hard to know on a short phone call precisely what's going on. But I can hear it in your voice, and that does a lot for me. That's part of the reason we're doing this over the phone, is because I spend a lot of my time talking to people, and I can hear it in your voice that you're someone who's been through some things and has learned some hard lessons and has taken some proactive steps towards a productive life. And that gives me, that's encouraging and inspiring for me to hear. And so, that was a lot that I just said, but you're in a really sensitive place. So I'm just trying to be careful because, this isn't a life advice show. I don't want to recommend that you do something and then it turn out to be tragic. I take this really seriously. I don't want to give any official advice here unless it's something really specific that you just want feedback on. But, like marriage is a big deal. I hope it doesn't sound like I'm beating around the bush. Does any of that make any sense?
No, it absolutely does. And
Okay.
I appreciate all of that. Thank you.
Great. I love to hear that. Well, what else is there? Is there any, how can we make this a good call for you? Well, is there anything else?
Honestly, I'm already feeling a little bit better. I mean, I even went into this call having a headache with anxiety about
Okay.
actually getting through and talking about it, and that's even starting to go away.
Great.
So it's already helping.
Well, just know that you're under a lot. And I know that doesn't make it like easier to know that you're under a lot, but actually it kind of does. Like your late 20s are rough. Not enough people talk about that. I wish more people had told me in my 20s that my late 20s, mid 20s, late 20s were going to be super rough, like developmentally. Not enough people tell people that kind of stuff. There's also a lot of stuff about marriage people don't talk about that they probably should. I'm assuming that you can relate with that sentiment. There's all these things that people don't talk about that they should talk about, and that's what it gives me. It's just encouraging for me to hear people like you calling in, because that's what this whole thing is about. Is that we want to support humans. We want to just create a place where anyone can call in with anything, and it'll make us all feel a little bit better about. It's a really confusing time we're in right now, and people don't know who to talk to, who's safe to talk to. People are losing friends, people are losing relationships, people are going through a lot, and you're definitely going through a lot. But I'm inspired to hear that the steps that you've taken, and I just want to encourage you that it sounds like this new partner you found sounds really supportive, and I think that's great.
Honestly, I could cry at so sweet of you to say thank you.
Well, thank you so much for calling in and sharing. And I know the chat is grateful. Please go through the chat after this and read through, and feel free to cherry pick anything that's useful.
Absolutely, I'll be doing that. Thank you so much.
Take care of yourself, and call back anytime.
Thank you.
Take care. Okay. Gonna open up these phone lines. Hi, thanks for calling.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you. What do you want to talk about?
Well, I kind of wanted to just, I'm sorry, I didn't expect to get through. I wanted to talk about, well, I got this, I've had this trouble kind of thing with, having good relationships. So, like, I feel like I'm a pretty, like, whenever I, do end up forming a relationship or anything like that, it always seems to be with someone who isn't a, great person, if that makes sense. And, like, I don't want to seem like I'm a great person or anything, but, like, I feel like I'm a fairly good guy and a stand-up person, if that makes sense. But every time I end up going on these relationships, and I've only really been on 3, it never seems to really end up right, or like the person I never seem to really click. And I've only had one person I really cared about, and that didn't work out because in the end we just were extremely different people under circumstances again too. But I'm just like, I don't know, I'm trying to find a way to find better people to have those relationships with, and I kind of just wasn't sure if you had insight on that or not.
Sounds like you have this, it sounds like you have an attraction issue, like maybe you're attracted to people that aren't good for you.
Yeah, but I don't really know why.
How old are you?
I turned 21 2 weeks ago.
What's your relationship with your parents like?
They're it's been pretty good. It was a little weird, like, because I was homeschooled. I was raised in they're pretty much with just my mom and my dad, or just my siblings as well. And so it wasn't until like I was 14 I started to get like friendships and all that. And then when I was 16, I got a job at Walmart, and that's when I started meeting people outside and all that. And obviously, we start having like attractions and all that.
Right. What kind of situations are you getting yourself into? Are you getting yourself into abusive relationships, or just people that don't value you, or what's the deal?
It's mainly just, I think, people who aren't valuing me, because I've only really been, I guess I would say, really in 2 relationships, and like I've been on like 1 date pretty much, and like the one relationship wasn't good at all. It was clear that like it started off with just being like wanting to be like friends with benefits, and then I realized that's not the kind of person I want to be, so I kind of just stopped talking to that person. But in the next person I had, I felt like we had a lot in common. It was the first time I actually like cared about someone, but I couldn't do that one either because it was just under bad circumstances. I felt like.
Well, you're 21. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. No, that was it. Sorry.
Was there anything else? I'm not trying to cut you off.
Well, it's just like I've talked to like my parents and my older brother about this, and pretty much their whole thing that they say about it is that I'm too insecure about it. And so the last like 2 years, I've really built on making sure I'm someone who is self-confident and try to make myself a more confident person.
Right.
But then I'm able, like, whenever I'm attracted to someone, I've noticed lately I've been able to recognize those bad traits before I started to get myself into wanting a relationship with them. But it seems like I can't find anyone who I think would be a good. And maybe that's just because I work a lot and I do school online. So I literally just work like 45 hours a week at my job, and I come home and do school for like 4 hours a day. And that's pretty much all I do because I don't have time for anything else.
Well, you're really young, and it sounds like you're really busy, and it could just be a time thing. Maybe it's just a time thing, This isn't, I can't give you advice on dating here, and that's not what we're here to do, but, want to be helpful, of course. So I'm just wondering, our last caller said they got married when they were 21, and it was a horrible situation, an abusive situation. 21 is a young age to be attracted to someone. That's to be seriously attracted to someone, I should say. Obviously, our sex drive kicks in much younger than 21. I'm not pretending that I don't know that, but sounds like you really want something meaningful. It sounds like you want a meaningful relationship, and you're really young, and also sounds like you're very busy. And I'm just wondering if you also have this kind of pep to your voice, and I'm not sure if that's like a like some kind of social predisposition you have. Like maybe you project this like positive thing, but inside you're feeling really down on yourself. I'm not sure if that's what's going on, so I'm trying to be careful and not be insensitive. But I am wondering if this is just a time thing. Like maybe time will sort this out. I mean, you're really young and you're really busy, it sounds like.
Yeah. I don't know. I just wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if you had any insights on why that may be happening. I'm just trying to find people who may understand what I'm going through a little bit. That's why I called.
Yeah, let's spitball a little bit, and then I do want to respect, we're getting a lot of callers calling in about like suicide and whatnot. So I want to be respectful of those callers, but I also want to respect, it sounds like this is something that's eating you up. So, we'll spitball here for a second. It could be, you mentioned you have a good relationship with your parents. So, I don't know to what extent your relationship with your parents is good. I don't know if a lot of people grow up attracted to people like their parents, like one of their parents, and they're drawn to something in one of their parents because it's familiar. A lot of people get married on the basis of familiarity. So I'm not sure if that's an issue. Like maybe you're attracted to something in a partner that's actually counterproductive for you. That could be happening. We're probably not going to resolve that on a short phone call like tonight. But we're spitballing here. It could be that. It could be that you're just again, like it sounds like you're really busy. Relationships take a lot of focus and determination. I wonder if you know what kind of person you're after in your life, like what would be a supportive, valuable partner to someone like you. I don't know you, so I can't really tell you that. But do you know what you're after?
Not exactly.
The people you've been attracted to, do they have qualities like either of your parents? And do you think those are good qualities to be attracted to?
Yeah, I think the second person did.
Okay.
But yeah.
Productive qualities, or
I wouldn't have called if I'd known that this wasn't a thing to talk about. So I apologize for that.
no problem. I'm not trying to discourage people from calling with anything. I mean, it's hard to put a weight on what people are going through. Relationships are real. There's been a lot of relationship calls, so I'm not saying don't call in with relationship stuff. But again, it does sound like you're in your early 20s. That's a natural time to be trying to figure out what works for you, and not just in relationships, but also for, what you're going to do with your life, your career, your value as a human. I mean, these are all natural questions to be asking at your age. So I wouldn't be too hard on yourself. I would just say maybe take some time with it and really think about, go slow. Like maybe don't rush into a relationship, maybe take it slow. And then I want you to call back if this continues to be an issue, or if you've thought, if you thought of some specific element of this that is holding you back. If there's something you can pinpoint in the future that's problematic, call us back with that and we'll give you specific feedback.
Awesome. I appreciate it.
Thanks for calling. Call anytime. Okay, we're going to turn these lines back on. Here we go. Hi, thanks for calling.
Holy smokes. Hey, Julian, how you doing?
Hi, I'm well. How are you tonight?
I'm all right. I've actually been watching you for pretty much since you went live, actually, but I just wanted to chat and kind of share, I guess, a little bit of a story. I don't know if you've got time for a story.
What you got?
Well, so I'm married. I've been married for less than a year now, and basically stuck mentally on somebody else, and it's messed with me for a long time in pretty much every relationship I've been in. So just kind of thought if you had any feedback on what I should maybe do or how I should think differently about things.
I think I missed something crucial. You cut out for a second. Can you repeat the issue? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm just I was saying that I'm married and
right.
Basically mentally stuck on somebody that I've dated like a long time ago.
Oh.
And never really got over that. And I haven't really been able to talk to my spouse now because of it. I mean, not because of it, but I can't really talk to her about it. I've tried talking to her about it, and she doesn't seem to understand or want to understand. So
So you tried talking to your spouse about being attracted to an ex.
Yes. Not
Wow.
necessarily attracted, but like having issues with getting over them, I suppose.
I see. Yeah, that's understandable that your spouse probably doesn't want to hear that kind of stuff. I'm not saying that it's
Right.
messed up. I think it's actually very admirable that you felt comfortable bringing it up. It makes me think that maybe you're in a really healthy relationship, that you felt comfortable talking about something like that with a spouse. That's
Yeah.
pretty intense.
Yeah, well, then that's kind of the issue. One of the issues, I guess, is like I'm comfortable enough talking about the situation and like explaining like here's the issue that I have
Mm-hmm.
and like the way that I am because of this past relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like she doesn't really understand it, I guess. Like she doesn't want to talk about it. She doesn't want to hear about it. She thinks that it's ridiculous that I even still think about this other person. So
I see. What is it about this ex that is plaguing you? Is there something that you got from this person that you don't get from your current spouse?
well, it's like it's almost I don't know. It's like it's poison. I don't know if that's the best way to describe it, but it's like this it's almost like an alcoholic with alcohol, It's like this nag and this itch that's just like there constantly
Mm-hmm.
where like the most fun that I had and the most understood that I ever was and like the best I got along with anybody was with this other person. And like a really, really deep set relationship with this other person, but it just like went to garbage. Like hell in a handbasket kind of situation. So
I see.
it's like a drug almost, I suppose, is the best way I can describe it.
Was that relationship a healthy relationship?
Hmm. Not necessarily, but it's also like it still sticks with me because there wasn't any closure there. So
In what ways was it not healthy?
so her and I started dating whenever I was like fresh in college. And I say dating, I use that term loosely because she was engaged to another guy at the time. And then, her and I would hang out just as friends and stuff, but there was obvious that there was feelings being being brought into the situation. So I remember very vividly one day she came over and her fiance had dropped her off and we were hanging out and she took her coat off and was wearing a corset and wanted to lay in bed with me and was like, she asked me if I was in love with her. And I was like, you can't be asking me this. I told her, like, I can't answer that question.
This woman sounds toxic.
I'm trying to be respectable.
This woman sounds like a seducer.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but also...
Is it possible
like,
you were attracted to this person because of the seduction?
It's possible.
It's very real. Seduction's real.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I feel like that's how I wind up in a majority of the relationships that I'm in is because I'm seduced with basically what I want to hear.
And a marriage is not seductive.
A marriage is not seductive?
Yeah, marriage is not seductive. It's the antithesis. It's the antithesis of seductive. That means it's got different value. I'm not saying that it's like marriage is not sexy, because I think marriage can be sexy, but it's the antithesis of seduction. Like seduction is quick and fleeting and it's over and it's empty, and marriage is the opposite thing. It's like you're going to tie yourself to this person for life, hopefully. And it doesn't always work out that way, obviously. But it's the antithesis of. I'm now putting emphasis on anti because I like that. Actually, I like that better. I wish we said it antithesis instead of antithesis because I think it hits a little harder. But it's the antithesis of seduction. Like marriage is not. It takes work and it's not immediate. It's a long, slow brew, and a lot of people don't make it. And seduction's not like that. It's easy to seduce someone. All you have to do is take off your jacket and be wearing a corset and ask them if they love you.
Yeah, that's pretty easy. Especially if you're doing it to a 18-year-old.
How's your sex life in your marriage? Is it good? Is this like maybe coming from some kind of place of maybe I'm not trying to lead you, but could it be that you're not having enough sex in your marriage and you're thinking about this woman that was throwing herself at you?
It could be. I mean, our sex life's not really existent, and that's mostly because of me. I'm not a physical person, which is, I mean, I think it has something to do. That's part of the reason. I feel like it has something to do with that is because I used to be an extremely physical person, but anymore it's like I can't stand the thought of being touched personally. That's just me. So
okay, you don't want to be touched. It's hard to have sex without being touched.
It's like a trust issue.
So
I think it's a trust issue, more of like there's so much disingenuine touching and feeling that came from the other relationship that I'm like, I know you're lying when you touch me. Stop touching me.
Right.
If that makes any sense.
So I apologize if you've answered directly and I missed it, but I'm still not sure. Like, again, I don't know you, so I hope you don't mind sharing freely, but to get to the bottom of the issue, could it be a sex thing? Is your sex life okay right now, or are you wanting more?
I could care less about sex, to be honest with you, but my wife is definitely like, sex is the key to a healthy relationship. I'm more of a like mental and verbal intimacy where I feel like I can confide in this person and trust this person, but I don't feel that way usually.
Interesting. So makes me wonder what you were attracted to in this woman that was throwing herself at you while she wasn't wearing clothes.
Don't know.
Maybe you learned a good lesson.
It's like I said, sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I'm cutting you off. I was saying it sounds like maybe you learned a good lesson from that relationship.
What do you think that lesson would have been?
Well, I mean, you said that you were really, you said you're still, for those who are just joining us, we're talking to a caller who is married currently and is struggling with struggling to get over an ex-girlfriend. And we're digging into the past of this ex-girlfriend and trying to figure out what's going on. And it came out that this ex-girlfriend was engaged, I believe you said, when you guys met, and she kind of threw herself at you while wearing a corset and asked if you loved her. And that just seems like a really forward kind of thing to do, no less for someone who's engaged. So I was just thinking, like, I think a lot of guys would have acted the same way in that situation. A lot of guys would have just been like, hell yeah, I love you. Like they wouldn't have known any better. They would have just done whatever the girl wanted. But you just said that you are actually, you could care less about sex in your marriage. Can you turn your speakers down? We're getting some feedback.
Oh, sorry.
No problem. I can't hear you when the speakers are on. But you said that you could care less about sex in your own marriage, and that it's more of your wife wanting that stuff. And so I'm wondering, like, what it is about this, and I know it sounds like it's the same thing you're wondering, but like I'm confused because it sounds like the first thing you were attracted to in this ex was that she kind of threw herself at you and she wasn't hardly wearing anything. And I'm like, okay, well, that seems like a big deal. But now you're saying that you don't want sex. So I'm wondering, like, was there some kind of sex trauma that happened in that relationship that maybe made you, it put you off from sex? Like maybe you said you don't even want to be touched. So I'm wondering, like, was there something traumatic that happened in that relationship that has kind of made you turned off by being sexual or being touched, or like what? Yes, and you're also having a really hard time getting over this girl. So I'm wondering, like, if you don't want to have sex and the whole basis of this relationship with this ex was sex, then what is it that you were attracted? What do you think it is you're attracted to in her? What do you think you're having a hard time getting over?
Mm. Well,
That was a lot.
I don't know. I think it's more of a, yeah, there's a lot to unpack there off of what you just said. I think that it's more of, because I've come to the terms with the fact that that relationship that I had with that other person was very, very, very bad. I mean, to the point where I thought that there was something wrong with me because her and I were not physically intimate, even though she like swore up and down that she wanted me and all this stuff. Like to the point where I thought there was something wrong with me, and I was like, maybe it would just be better if I just killed myself. And I'm not trying to jump on this rant about suicide and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Other people have their own problems, but like to the point where we weren't physical, and I wanted to be physical with the other person, and it got so bad that I would like wake up at 2:00 in the morning and just walk around our apartment, and then I'd like stare at myself in the mirror with like a knife to my neck and be like, dude, just do it. Just do it. Like, nothing's going to stop you from doing this. And then eventually I got over it. But
I'm really sorry to hear that.
I think that the detriment, yeah, well, yeah.
I mean, this stuff can be really
things in their own
confusing.
way, I
This
suppose.
stuff can drive people to those places. This stuff is serious, especially in relationships.
Yeah.
Gygax girl from the chat, these screen names, I don't know how to pronounce it, half of them. Gygax, I'm pretty sure that's how it's pronounced, says, it sounds like you felt used, maybe forced to have sex with your ex, and that made you feel like sex is to blame instead of blaming the woman's mental issues. Is that possible?
Yeah. That's possible. I mean, to me anymore, sex just feels like such a ridiculous thing, I suppose, is the best way that I can think of it. It's like, I don't know if it's like society and the fact that like porn is so readily available and the over-sexualization of women is like nonstop, just like look at all this sex everywhere. But it just seems like such a novelty, like an abstract thing. Like it shouldn't even be that important, but apparently it is to some people. So
I do think we're cruising for a bruising with all that sex novelty. And also I think we're probably overdue for some kind of revolt where like the hippies, several decades ago responded to all the war and everything that was happening, and they just, caused all this huge generation of hippies and just like love and smoking weed and all this just like, antitheses of war to come about. I do think we're probably coming into I hope we're coming into some kind of season like that with all this porn. It's just like, it's so, I agree. I'm agreeing with you in a really long-winded way that, yeah, porn's just way too everywhere right now. Yeah, you're in a tough spot. You're married and you're struggling with your marriage because of an ex.
I'm married. I wouldn't say that I'm struggling with the marriage. I'm more struggling with the fact that I can't talk about this.
I see.
With my wife because she gets upset whenever I bring it up.
Well, she's not going to want to talk about it.
It's more like a jealousy thing.
Yeah, it makes sense to me that she's jealous.
Right. Because I haven't been with that other person for a long time and I'm still talking about them. I get that.
That's probably the wrong outlet. I mean, I'm not saying you did something wrong, but like, yeah, it doesn't surprise me that that's not a productive outlet. Like, I think, do you have a counselor that you can process this with?
I know. I first can't afford to do it anyway, but I'm more of a like dwell on it and think about it and see other people's perspectives and then try to resolve the issue internally before I seek external help, usually.
Right.
It's kind of how I got over the suicide thing.
Well, suicide's serious. I mean, yeah, there are outlets for people who can't afford an expensive therapist. A lot of therapists have interns in their office who will just talk to people, and a lot of these people are in training to become therapists, so they can be a great place to begin for people who may not be able to afford $60 to $120 an hour for a therapist's time. There's also a lot of places that get grants for therapy. Do you have insurance? I'm just spitballing here, trying to figure out how we can make sure that you get some constant support, because what I would hate I'd hate to hear that this was just like one, short phone call with us all here, and that you weren't able to find any other steps after that.
Well, I know that those things are available, and my wife already goes to therapy to try to deal with issues that she has over on her side, and we've talked about those things, but I don't know. I just feel like mentally I'm not in the state where I like either need to go to therapy or am ready to. Like I haven't dwelled on it enough, I guess, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but it's more of like I'll get there when I get there kind of thing.
Right.
If that makes any sense. But anywho.
Well, I appreciate you calling.
Just wanted to.
Yeah. It sounds like it sounds like you need more places like this where you can just call in and share, and it's, there's a bunch of ideas in the chat. I don't know if any of them will be helpful for your specific case. You're in a very specific scenario, so I don't, I'm hesitating weighing in too much because especially because you're married, like that's a serious thing. I don't want to say anything that would, marriage is serious. So, and I'm not a psychologist, so I can only weigh in so much. But
I get you, man. No, I appreciate just even being available to take the call because, like I said, I've been watching you this whole time, and I'm not gonna lie, I jumped on and I was like, what in the hell is Julian doing?
You never know what I'm up to, do you?
What is this guy doing? Because I'm not gonna lie, man. The last time I saw you was like whenever I was in high school, and I saw the Malk thing. It's cracking me up.
I've done a lot more since Malk, but a lot of it's been under the radar. A lot of podcasts, a lot of commercials. Been doing a lot of production. So it's a lot of.
Exactly. That's how out of the loop I've been. But you just popped up on my feed, and I was like, oh, let's see what he's up to. And it's like Helpline.
Well, I'm so glad.
Kind of funny, I guess.
Well, yeah. I wish it was funny.
I'm joking.
I wouldn't call the situation you're in funny. I think it's. I think this is why we're doing this. We're doing this for people who don't know where to call about things like this. Right. I wish that I could give you more concrete advice because it sounds like that's what you're after, but I'm really reluctant to give advice, especially if someone's married or I don't want to mess up your marriage, but I will say it sounds like you're in a relationship where you felt really comfortable. I mean, you felt comfortable talking to your wife about an ex that you hadn't gotten over fully. That's some serious amount of intimacy you've got with your wife. I will say that. I'm trying to support your marriage. It sounds like that's a really good good outlet for you.
Yeah. And I want to be absolutely clear. I don't want anybody to misconstrue what I'm saying. Like I love my life. I love my wife because she is my life. And I don't have any intention of ever spoiling that. Like I'm a one and done kind of guy. So I'll be with her till I die. So, but I don't know. I feel like I needed to talk about it and just get it out. And
I'm glad you did.
Talk to somebody who doesn't live anywhere near me.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I was joking with someone the other day. Someone was asking, a friend of mine was asking me what this show's about because I hadn't seen it yet, and I was trying to describe it, and I was like, that theme song from the old show Cheers says, sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name. This is basically the exact opposite, where no one knows your name. So that's what we're doing here. I'm so glad you called in.
All right, man.
Call back anytime.
I'm glad I got through. I'm gonna leave you alone. I'll let you do your thing. Appreciate you.
Take care. All right, guys. So we're gonna take 90 seconds, and then we're gonna take probably 2 more calls, depending on what happens. Who knows what happens? Maybe we get one call that goes into 2 a.m. Who knows? But we're gonna take a quick 90 seconds, and we'll open up the phone lines again. Actually, I'm gonna open them up now. But I'm gonna step away for just a quick second. Be right back. I almost broke my lamp. Did you guys see that? I bumped into it. All right. Hi, thanks for calling. Hello?
Oh, hi.
Hi, thanks for calling.
Sorry, I didn't. Hi.
What do you want to talk about?
Sorry, now my dog. Apparently, my dog took it out of the conversation. Hey, no barking. So I'm a grad student, in my third year, and I am making a big decision that sucks. I want to change advisors. Same program, similar interests, but I started in the 2019-2020 year, and obviously we know what happened in spring of 2020.
Right.
And my mental health tanked, and I've come to terms a lot more with the issues with my mental health, and they've been worse than I thought I could ever let them get, and that sucked. And changing advisors is just one of those big decisions that you don't want to have to deal with in grad school, because it means in a lot of ways having to start over on what you've been learning, on what you've been doing, and I know it's for the better, but the stress has just been eating me alive.
So you just changed advisors, or you're considering changing advisors?
Well, it's not official yet, but it's I want it to be official as soon as possible, because with summer coming, I need to figure out what I'll be doing for my summer, and the sooner I can work with the advisor I want to switch to, the better. So I plan on telling my current advisor this week that I'm making this change, and that's going to suck, and I'm not really sure how to go about even bringing this topic up, because it's kind of awkward. It's kind of hey, you've been mentoring me for the past 3 years and helping me figure out what I want to do, and I'm not going to stick with you. I'm going to go with someone else now.
Mark from the chat says, I almost forgot about that part of college. Advisors are a ball and chain to academia. You know, I don't know that we can support you in your situation with your advisors, but I do wonder if there's something deeper going on. You mentioned some mental health issues. Is there something deeper going on that is the reason for the call?
Yeah, so throughout college, I guess, too, maybe I can try to be brief. It became more apparent that some of the quirkiness and weirdness I had growing up was something deeper. I started having panic attacks, dealing with sensory overload, severe anxiety and depression, and that's been carried with me for a long time now. I've gotten a better psychiatrist, better diagnoses. I do have ADHD and I'm autistic, both of which have weighed on me for a long time.
ADHD and autistic. You have diagnoses for both of those?
I do have an official diagnosis for ADHD. The autism one is current mental health care professionals agree, but aren't qualified to actually write that on like a piece of paper that says it's the diagnosis. But for all intents and purposes, that is officially diagnosed by professionals.
Have you taken a test, one of those autism spectrum disorder tests that gives you a rating?
Oh yeah. It's always like very clearly like, how did you make it this far without someone diagnosing this? And I don't know.
Right. Well, you're not nonverbal autistic. You're clearly well-spoken and articulate, so I'd guess that you're probably somewhere in the 30s at highest, maybe 40s. Not an age, but on the ASD spectrum.
I'm not super familiar with what different tests use for numbers, but like whatever ones I've been given by psychiatrists to monitor that, whatever results they've seen have indicated that it's not even really that much of a question.
Right.
So
All
yeah,
I
I
mean,
guess it would depend on
sorry,
what test you're looking at.
yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to derail you. I was just getting at that you're clearly not nonverbal, which is, I've known some nonverbal autistic people. That's like high 50s on the scale.
Yeah, that's one of those things too, where like the days where I get like really shut down, I guess in college it was mistaken for panic attacks, but now I recognize kind of more of what's happened. Like there's times where I have nonverbal episodes where it's hard to describe. It's like there's a program in my brain that translates my thoughts into speech, and that it like freezes.
I see.
And it's frustrating.
So
that's
what's
something I deal with
right?
a lot.
So what's the issue? Is are you dealing with some feeling like a misfit, or is it yeah, you mentioned a lot. You mentioned that you have ADHD and autism spectrum disorder, and that you're changing advisors as an undergrad student. That's traumatic in and of itself. So I'm wondering, you mentioned there was deeper issues. Let's get deeper.
It's graduate school, so it's.
Oh, okay.
I'm working on my PhD. So
wow. What are you studying, if you don't mind me asking? I'm curious. I'm impressed. What are you studying?
Oh gosh, I'm studying mathematics.
Wow. Okay. A PhD in mathematics.
Not to give you the stereotype of like, oh, I'm the weird autistic kid that likes math, but like,
Yeah, this is all adding up. No pun intended. Yeah. Well, so what is the deeper issue? I mean, like, I've wondered if I'm autistic before. I've had psychiatrists and stuff tell me that psychologists rather, not, I've never seen a psychiatrist, but I've had psychologists tell me that I might be ADHD. I've had some of them tell me I might be autistic. I don't know what. I'm at a place in life where I don't really care. I'm just like, I'm in my 30s now. Whatever I am, I'm fine. I'm getting by, and I like what I am. I'm fine. So it makes me wonder, like, what is the deeper issue? Is it that you're struggling with these diagnoses? Is it that you feel like a misfit? Like, what's the reason for the call tonight, and how can we make it a good call?
It's kind of a combination of a lot of the things you mentioned. I don't really have any friends, which is sad, because I'm in grad school. I'm in a place where people have similar interests to me, and talking anonymously is one thing. It's really easy for me to talk in like this type of setting, but if you put me in a face-to-face social setting, I tend to just be, I don't know how to handle them. So even though I'm surrounded by people with the same interests as me, like people I could get along with, I fail to do so.
Mm-hmm.
I think, like I mentioned, stress has gotten to me a lot. I deal with a lot of sensory issues. Like I go to a larger university, and it's so big. Like there's people, there's noises, it's bright, and there's just a lot to see, and it's very overwhelming every day. I walk through there, and then I have to go to a class where even the stuff on the board is like I understand like 50% of it, because that's kind of how there comes a point in math where I think even mathematicians don't really know what they're doing. They just kind of make sense of it. And so it's stressful for me to keep up.
Right.
And sometimes the way I deal with the stress is not healthy. And yeah.
What do you do that's not healthy?
I do have some self-harm tendencies, some purposeful, some intentional, some not necessarily. So like I sometimes if I'm really distressed, I kind of notice I will hit myself. I don't even necessarily notice doing it, but other people have, and that if it's severe, people will step in. Most of the time, it just makes people not want to be around me. And then intentionally, I've struggled with cutting myself since I was 12, so that's something that's just kind of been in my life on and off. Sadly, another thing is, I guess I find comfort in hitting my head against the wall repeatedly.
Oh, don't do that.
Which is not something I would recommend.
Right.
It's not fun.
You got to protect that brilliant brain you have.
I don't know how it still works up there. It's somehow stayed intact.
I love your sense of humor. That's amazing. Well, I don't want to make light of what you're telling me, of course, but like it sounds like you have a sense of humor, so I felt safe laughing. Yeah.
Please laugh. It helps.
Yeah. Well, so it sounds like the issue is that you're feeling really overwhelmed in your daily life. Is that right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I don't think I haven't. I don't think there's a day I haven't felt overwhelmed in well over 6 months.
Wow. How old are you?
I'm 26.
Yeah, we had a lot of mid to late 20s calls tonight. And I don't know if you've heard those other callers, so I might repeat myself. I will definitely repeat myself here, but it's a really rough age. I feel like a broken record saying this again, but I'm going to say it again for you, that, this age of life doesn't get enough credit. There's a lot of older people who just kind of like, they just shrug it off. There's like, yeah, just grow a pair, get over it. You're 26. I'm 45 or something like that. And they're like, yeah, you can complain to me when you're my age, kind of thing. And I just am totally against that whole thing, because I went through that as someone who also grew up feeling very different. Again, I've probably got some weird, some mental anomaly going on, be it ADHD or autism or something. I've got something. I've always felt like I don't understand people. I feel like I understand them, but they don't understand me. And I feel like I put off a lot of people. I feel like a lot of people think I'm too direct and unfiltered and things like this. I don't know if that resonates at all. But
that totally.
Go ahead.
It totally resonates that and people don't like that you're so direct. I'm the type of person where I don't understand why people would say something if they don't mean it, or ask a question that they don't want to know the answer to.
Right.
Like, it still baffles me that people ask, "How are you doing?" I'm like, if you don't want to know the answer to that, don't ask the question.
Right.
Like, why does everyone say good? Thanks. How are you? That's such a stupid thing.
Right.
So I understand that.
What are we just asking pointless questions now?
What'd you say?
Sorry, I was joining in with you in the irony. I was just saying, what are we asking pointless questions now? Like, do you not want a real answer when you ask me a question? Do you just want me to like lie to you for our entire relationship? Like, you want me to tell you what I think?
Right. So many things like that are just lost on me, and I think that has caused me to struggle with friendships. I mean, I remember being in high school, being like, I don't know how to make friends, and I was always the one where if I felt like I had friends, I recognized that I was always the one that got left out.
Right.
So I question whether I had friends in any meaningful sense at all.
I relate with that. I resonate with that. Well, you mentioned that the reason for the call was this overwhelming feeling that kind of shrouds your days, and I think there's a lot of people that experience that. I'm not trying to diminish your problem. I'm trying to give you some encouragement, and one of the goals of this thing we're doing here is trying to help people realize how similar we all are. There's differences. We all have differences, of course. Like, You may be autistic. I may be ADHD. I don't know what is going on up there. I'm not really that interested in knowing. I just live my life. I'm at a place in life now where if I could have afforded the time and money to go get clinically tested younger, I probably would have, but I'm now at an age where I'm just like, I don't really care what a psychologist is going to tell me. I've figured out my rhythm. I've figured out how to not be bothered by this offbeat feeling I get from, quote, normal people, and I'm comfortable with that. And I think that what you're going through it sounds familiar to me. It sounds normal to me as somebody who understands what you're talking about. A lot of people probably won't understand exactly what you're getting at. I do. There's a bunch of people in the chat who do get what you're getting at. So you're not alone is my point. But my overall point is that you're under a lot right now. You're studying for a PhD in mathematics, which is enough of a burden in and of itself. Not to mention you've been diagnosed with ADHD. You've had some counselors and psychiatrists tell you that you might be autistic. This is it sounds like you've got like all the information you need. I'm not saying that that you don't have you shouldn't have a problem or something, but I'm saying that you're at an age where it's a super developmental age. A lot of these callers have been in their late 20s, and I feel like a broken record saying this, but I'll say it again. Like a lot of people, even celebrities, even rich people, a lot of people don't make it past their late 20s because it's a really rough developmental age. Even people with lots of money do stupid things and self-harm in their lives because it's such a tumultuous time. But you are clearly someone who's applying yourself. I mean, mathematics, that trade is super valuable right now. Like we need mathematicians, and you're applying yourself in really productive ways. And so I'm glad you called in, and I want to know what would make this a helpful call for you. What would help? What are you after here? What do you need?
I guess one of the biggest things is that I don't know. One of the social skills I never learned was really approaching people in a way where I don't disappoint them. Like, for example,
I get that.
Because, I'm dealing with the stress of trying to learn really complicated things that are somewhat lost on me, which probably says something about the stuff I'm learning, and dealing with mental health issues that make things difficult. I'm trying to change advisors, and that change is bad when you're someone like me. Even if this is a good change, like it has to happen. I'm miserable working under my current advisor, not because of her, but the subject material is just not the specialty I want to take on. And the advisor I'm switching to is something stomachable, I guess, and I'd rather do something stomachable. How the hell do I bring up to my current advisor that this is the choice that I'm making, and I'll be working on the paperwork this week to make the official change? I don't know if anyone has any advice on, talking to people who mentor you in such a way that you don't disappoint them when you're making a decision that could hurt them or be seen as rude.
I think you just tell them exactly what you just told us, which is that they're not training you in specializing in this specific sort of math you're interested in, and you need training in this specific specialization that you're interested in, or you won't be useful. And it's nothing personal. And I think that advisor will respect you for that.
I hope so.
I'm almost positive that they will. I mean, those advisors are much older and they should be much more mature than the students, so they should be able to handle that. They shouldn't get their egos involved. Any good advisor, in my opinion, won't take offense to that. They'll understand it's nothing personal. I don't know your advisor.
Yeah,
I don't know what you're under. Maybe this advisor is a jackass. I don't know.
I mean, she's really great, and I think part of the problem is she's like super well respected in a field that's like it's effectively I'm so special. Part of mathematics is you get so specialized that like your specialized field has specializations. I'm just moving from the specialized specialization to another one in the same like overall specialization. So it's not huge, but in her very specific area, she's well known and has huge results. And
I see.
It's one of those things where it kind of makes you nervous to be like, yeah, I know you're one of the best people in the world doing what you're doing, but I'm gonna go talk to this person who's younger and relatively not as well known and not as prolific.
Man, maybe you just tell the advisor exactly that.
I don't know if that would be nice.
No, I think it's perfectly nice. I mean, there's a way to convey bad news that's not disrespectful. And if you're 20, I'm not trying to, preach or I'm trying to be helpful. I'm resonating with a lot of what you're saying. Actually, I feel like I'm talking with a kindred spirit, because a lot of the stuff you're talking to me about with connection with people and not really understanding how to, not make a bad first impression with people, I get a lot of that because that's been my experience. So I'm trying to be helpful when I say this. I'm not trying to preach, but like, I feel like you're the kind of person that's going to have insights about things that will take other people. And I'm not saying that you're like, I don't know you. I'm not saying that, certain types of people are geniuses and other people are not. But I'm saying that like you are a person that has your eggs in specific baskets. You were born that way, I would imagine. You mentioned you have ADHD and potentially you're on the autism spectrum. So, you were probably born this way. But you have you have all your mental eggs in in specific baskets, and that means that you're going to arrive at certain conclusions quicker than some people. Probably even your advisors. And your advisors will recognize that if you can package it in a way that's respectful and not be disrespectful. Your advisors will in turn respect you, is my opinion.
I don't know if I've ever looked at it that way. I think that's a good way of thinking about it, that if I'm in the right place, I'll get respected. Because I wonder if that's part of it too. Like, my current advisor has kind of wondered why I'm not making as much progress as she wants me to. And it's 50% because I'm bored and 50% because I don't feel like I have the correct support, I guess.
Right.
And maybe that could be a huge part of switching.
And it doesn't sound like you're after respect. I want to be very clear. I'm not telling you how to be respectable. I'm saying, your question was, how do I tell my current advisor this? I mean, it sounds like you're really conflicted. It sounds like you're considering a lot of empathy in this equation. You're considering the investment your advisor has made into you as a student, and you don't want to hurt their feelings. That's a really admirable thing that you want to do. You've got this thing you need to do, and you don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. And it sounds like maybe that's exacerbated by the fact that you don't necessarily understand people's feelings naturally, or it takes you some time. And so you're doubly, you're walking on double eggshells. You don't want to piss your advisor off, so I'm not telling you how to get respected. I'm saying, I'm trying to just brainstorm with you on ways that you might be able to convey this news that will probably be bad news to your advisor in a way that will show that you actually respect them, and that you're not just like, hey, thanks for nothing Because I don't hear you saying that. I don't hear you saying thanks for nothing. I hear you. Sounds like I'm talking to someone who's really grateful to this advisor, but it's just not a good fit. And I think your advisor will get that.
Yeah, I've kind of wondered if she's thought the same thing, but you can't just say that to a student that you've already agreed
right.
to advise.
It kind of messes up the power dynamic a little bit.
Yeah, but it was one of those things too where the person I want to and will be switching to, I kind of asked them, I'm like, are you taking students? And they were immediately like happy about it. So, it might be, that might be a better sign. And it might be a sign that it's just a better fit, not just a better subject, but
Right.
I don't want to spend all of grad school studying something I don't like, and I feel like the last year has been just that.
Right.
I had to learn the hard way that I didn't like the thing I was studying.
Well, it sounds like you learned a lot of things the hard way.
Yeah. Yep. I'm not convinced there's an easy way of learning things, I guess.
I love that. Actually, I think that's totally true. I think that's totally true. All learning is, it's like that Chinese adage about pain and suffering, and what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. That's the Americanized version of that sentiment, of course. But that comes from Eastern philosophy. That's why there's so many, like acupuncture and things like this. Like it's like built on the idea that like a little bit of discomfort goes a long way, and resistance is growth. And I'm agreeing with you in a really long-winded way. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Well, I'm so glad you called in tonight. Is there anything else? I want to make this a useful call for you. Is there anything else?
I guess I can't think of anything really that even kind of relates to these things. I would be going off on a different tangent, and I don't want to take away from other people that have other issues they want to talk about tonight.
Gotcha. Well, you're the last call for tonight, so we're winding down at midnight. So if there's anything else you want to cover, we can do it.
Okay, so I guess I'll bring this up too then. So I know I mentioned that my mental health issues kind of became more apparent in college, and I was actually hospitalized twice in my senior year of college, and I think kind of part of the issue of all the stress and all the anxiety of things I go through now is, at one point in my second hospitalization, I had a counselor there, and I want to preface this by saying I think counselors are good. There are some bad ones, and when you find them, but don't let, for people who need help, seek help. Like, don't let this story discourage seeking help. But what this counselor told me while I was there is that she thought I wasn't really trying, and that I wouldn't amount to anything besides bouncing in and out of psych wards every few months for the rest of my life. And I guess, it's one of those things where it's hard to live with someone telling you that.
Right.
I know deep down it's not true, but I spend so much energy fighting against that every day. Because, like, that's a really shitty thing to tell someone. Oh, sorry, I don't know if there's a policy on swearing. I let loose there.
It's fine.
You don't tell a psych ward patient who honestly was trying, who was doing everything, even if the situation was not good where I was, only for a counselor to tell me that I'm not going to amount to anything. Like, this is what I'm going to live through for the rest of my life.
Right.
And I guess a lot of my stress comes from fighting against that. I guess another thing to bring up here is how do you fight against something that someone says that cuts you so deep, even if you know it's not true, but you have to spend so much time fighting it?
Well, if you have ADHD and potentially autism, then your brain is going to work in a very analytical way. I mean, that's you don't have to be a psychologist to know that. Like your brain works differently. It's very analytical. It's very you're gonna process things in a really deep way. Oftentimes, that comes at the expense of a social deficit, meaning that you might. I mean, exactly what you started this call with, saying that you don't. It takes you some time to understand people, and you mentioned that that was kind of a slow process for you sometimes, and I resonate with that. So I don't think that means there's anything wrong with you. I don't believe that there's something wrong with people on the autism spectrum. Obviously, any problem can be really. There can be extreme cases. I grew up next door to a nonverbal autistic person, and I'm very aware of how difficult that can be for some families to go through to go through an experience like that. And it may, we may never know what it's like for the nonverbal autistic person. We may never know that. But what I'm saying is that, if your brain works in really specific ways, then you're naturally going to chew on things a lot longer and a lot harder and a lot deeper than a lot of other people are going to, because that's just the way your brain works. And I don't know if this resonates at all. I don't want to be unhelpful, but I know that what you just said resonates with me, and I know that in my experience, a lot of times I have to make a really concerted effort, and it takes everything within me to just let things go and just be like, you know what, that person just doesn't get it. They don't understand my motivation. They don't understand where I'm coming from, and they probably never will. And I've had to go to those places with some dear friends and family members even. And it's a really rough place to go to. So I don't know if that makes sense. Does that make sense to you at all when I say that at all?
A little bit. I think I'm following you a little bit.
Is it that when somebody says something to you, you're obsessing over it and you're like, why would they say that? And that's not right. And you're like trying to correct it somehow. And then there's nothing to correct. And then you're like, what's going on? And it's confusing or something like that.
When something feels harsh, I tend to overthink it. But,
right.
I guess it depends on the context too. Like, hearing what I heard from someone who was supposed to help me, who should be a mental health care professional.
Mm-hmm.
And, I guess that's one of those contexts where I took it really hard. And I guess in one sense, I just want to prove that wrong. Like,
right.
Even if I was being difficult, that's still something I would want to have proved wrong. Or it wasn't. It was just, they would do things with counseling where I'd be like, that doesn't make any sense to me, and I would, be logical about it, not trying to be malicious. I always get assumed that it's like a malicious thing on my part.
Right, you're trying to arrive at the truth. You're trying to you're trying to get the truth out of people.
It's never trying to undermine someone. It's just explaining my thought process, and that tends to get seen in a negative.
Well, I don't have this advantage, but you have the advantage. Sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead. I was going to crack a joke.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't have this advantage, but you have the advantage of being able to tell people, listen, I'm working on my PhD in mathematics, so you might not understand what I'm about to say, but the point, but you kind of hit the nail on the head a second ago. That's what I was getting at. You said you wanted to prove people wrong when they said something that was incorrect. You wanted to show them it. And you said it didn't come from a malicious place, like you're not trying to fight them, and I resonated with that. It's not that you want to it's not that you want them to be wrong. It's that you've this is a leading thing, but I feel like I get what you're saying. So correct me if I'm wrong. But I feel like what you're saying is that it's not that you want to prove people wrong. It's that when someone says something that feels like a surface level answer, you press them on it because you're like, no, there's more to this. Come on, give me more. And is that what it is?
Maybe. I guess that's part of it is when something gets generalized in a way that it shouldn't be.
Right.
It bothers me, which
right.
partly explains. I don't want to open up the can of worms with like politics and religion and stuff, but like
right.
people's opinions on that lack nuance, and it just
right.
bothers me because I hear all these statements that are so generalizing.
Right.
And it just
100%.
frustrates me.
I get that.
And I think even just daily interpersonal relationships that happen too, where people just don't have the time for nuance, so they just don't have it, and it bothers me because without it, you can make a lot of really incorrect statements.
Right. You seem like someone that's just after the truth. Like you don't sound like someone that's unwilling to be wrong. You sound like somebody who's willing to own things they're wrong about. You just seem like you're interested in the truth. Like you want to get to the heart of the matter. You want to figure out where the issues are and solve them. You're working on your PhD in mathematics, for crying out loud. I'm not saying you're perfect or you hung the moon, but I'm saying like you got a problem-solving oriented brain. And I've never been good at mathematics. I'm good at other things, but that's the way my brain works. I'm
not good at it either.
What's that?
Don't worry, I'm not very good at it either. I just decided this is what I wanted to do.
I don't believe that for a second. But I'm also I'm trying to relate to you in the ways that are making sense to me. I don't understand you completely because you sound like a very different person than I am, but it sounds like we are actually very similar in a lot of ways, and I'm resonating with you than I've resonated with a lot of callers because it sounds like you have a very similar experience to what I have, and I hate that you're torn up about all this. I'm just trying to be useful. I don't know if any of this has been useful or helpful, but I just I would encourage you that you're in a very developmental age, and a lot of this stuff probably will get easier, is my sense from the short time we've been talking for almost 40 minutes. So in the 40 minutes I've been talking to you, my gut says you'll probably learn to manage these relationships much more naturally in the coming years. And some of it may take some kind of a approach of like, just not caring, not to be careless, but to just be like, yeah, well, they said, so-and-so said this thing, it's not right, and it may not be correct, and I don't care. And I'm just going to let them think that. And that's been really hard for me. I don't know if that's hard for you, but it's really hard for me. But I've learned to kind of let it go.
I've had to learn to do that slowly. Sometimes I can't let it go because you can't just be strong about everything. Sometimes if someone's willing to have a discussion, I'm willing to.
Right. You got to pick your battles.
Even if I don't know the right thing, I enjoy just a philosophical discussion about, can we work towards a better answer? Can we work towards a better set of possible answers?
Right.
Work away from at least what we think is false. And like I said, I find that those type of discussions get lost on most people just because nuance is uncomfortable and takes a lot of time.
Right. Well, I don't know if this was a useful call for you. Is there anything else that could be useful? Do you feel like we've covered anything valuable? I'm struggling to know if we've landed here in any way.
I think it's been valuable to, I don't know, maybe have the conversation that it's okay to be empathetic but direct when, I guess, for the advisor change, because it's one of those situations where I don't want to hurt feelings, but I guess the confirmation that it's going to be okay to say that it's really, not personal, the subject, it's not sitting well with me.
Right.
I think that's helpful. And it's also helpful just, to hear that someone relates, I guess, in some odd way to me.
I certainly relate. You're getting a lot of love in the chat. I hope any of it's useful. You're actually getting potentially romantic love from Hector Hector Calvillo in the chat says, "I feel like I'm in love with this girl." Amazing. We're connecting. We're arranging love here now. No, that is not what we're doing. But yeah, I hope anything that in the chat is useful. There's been a bunch of ideas. I do think that you've got a twofold thing. You know, on one hand, you're on this probably a lifelong journey of trying to understand how you fit into this world as someone who's, neurodiverse, or you've got ADHD and potentially some autism. So it might be a lifelong journey for you. I wonder if you're familiar with the work of Temple Grandin and her books on pattern thinking, picture thinking, language thinking. Are you familiar with that work that Temple Grandin has done?
No, I'm not.
I would highly recommend Thinking in Pictures, the book by Temple Grandin. Temple Grandin is another PhD, autism spectrum disorder, brilliant person. She was on Time Magazine's list of top 100 most influential people of all time. She's incredible. There's an HBO documentary about her life. Incredible life she's lived. She's an amazing human being, and highly recommend checking out her book, Thinking in Pictures. It's again, she's autistic and has a PhD, and she's an engineer, and this book is amazing. I've read it, and I've had a few conversations with her on my podcast. She's incredible. Highly recommend checking out Thinking in Pictures.
I wrote that down on my whiteboard because,
Great.
all math people have one of those in their home.
Right. Naturally, because I don't have one. That means I'm not good at math. Well, I'm so glad you called in, and I actually just genuinely enjoyed talking to you. This was a really enjoyable call. I hope that it was valuable for you at all. It was cathartic for me, and I'm glad you called in and shared. I hope you're encouraged by anything we were able to share with you in return.
Yeah, I guess, thanks for being cathartic as well for me, in a way.
Awesome. Great. We'll call back anytime.
All right.
Take
Thanks.
care. All right, guys. Wow, another amazing night. I've struggled to keep up with the chat in this episode. There's been a lot of heavy stuff, but I'm just so grateful for the way you guys are engaging in the chat and providing ideas. You guys are an invaluable part of this format, and it's just beautiful seeing everyone be here for each other in this way. And, I'm just inspired. I'm inspired to see how much you guys have. I actually had no idea the chat was going to be this valuable. I knew there was going to be some interplay, but, just seeing the immediacy, just how quickly the chat picked up on the value here is just awesome to see. And I'm always looking forward to doing these. I want to be doing more of them. And for those who may be watching for the first time, we are going to be doing this again on Thursday at 9 p.m. Central. And then we'll be doing it again. Let's see, actually, I think I misspoke. No, that's right, Thursday. And then, sorry, I'm not more prepared. I got to get used to this late night thing. This is where my brain starts turning off. So I probably shouldn't be talking any dates right now. But Thursday, yeah, I'm just going to say Thursday for right now because that I know for sure. And then I know that we do these on Sunday and we don't do them on Friday. So I think what we do is we do Thursday and then Sunday. I think that's what we do. But subject to change on Thursday once I've had some rest. Forgive me for being so sloppy. But I always enjoy these, and I love interacting with you guys in the chat and just seeing the genuinely good ideas that are in here. These are good people. I can tell you guys are good people, those of you who are watching. And I love that we're all supporting each other in this way. I think it's beautiful. All right, guys. We had one toast tonight, I believe. There may have been two. I am missing the trolls, so I'm going to try to rally the trolls. Actually, I don't really want to do that because I really do want to keep the lines open for real callers. But Where are the trolls at? For real, guys. I thought we were going to be toasting people left and right. In the last 2 episodes, there's only been like 1 or 2 toasts. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but and thoroughly enjoying this, and I will see you guys on Thursday at 9 p.m. Central. Thanks so much. Have a great night. Or morning, wherever you are.